All right. Hi there, everybody. Nice to see you. Welcome back. My name is Dean, and here we are, just ahead of the weekend. Man, we try to like leaf through certain subjects and certain topics from time to time, depending on the subject and the topic. We'll bring in different guests, and sometimes you just have these guests that you're like, man, time anymore or her time anymore. I just want to make sure we bring in the right people at the right time for the right subjects. And then there's these other guests where it's like they're Swiss Army knives. You can kind of bring them in to talk about a million different things, and it's not like they're that much smarter than us, even though they are that much smarter than us. They're smart. They aren't, right, Loch? But generally speaking, is we try to bring people on who make us look better. But generally speaking, it's not hard to do. And that indeed is the case today. Please welcome back journalist from the Globe and Mail, also a journalist for the Washington Post. He's an author of a book, one of my favorite books of this last year, which I believe is charting yet again, because we live in a time where everybody should fucking read this book. It's called Too Dumb for Democracy. It's by my friend David Moscrop, and he joins us yet again today. Please welcome back to the program, David Moscrop, ladies and gentlemen, at David_Moscrop. Nice to see you.
And thank you very much. And you know what? It was back on the charts in part because every time someone trash talks me or my book, I decide to do a little marketing campaign. And there was a particular retired Sun journalist, columnist, who took a run at me, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to use this as an opportunity to grow my sales. And then I discovered that we were down the charts in political books on Amazon, and it was Machiavelli and Marx and Engels were up the charts, and I'm like, you know what? Fuck you, Marx and Engels. We're going to catch you, and we did. We briefly overtook Marx and Engels in the Amazon politics section. Yeah. So it's a pretty good day.
You're talking about the Communist Manifesto? Is that the one?
Bigger than Marx. Bigger.
I it was funny because I thought it was great. I know you do it because it's great. Like anytime someone shit posts you, you're almost like, oh fuck, okay, well, how do I use this to sell something?
It's as a kid, my mom put me in every sport you could imagine.
Yeah.
I think in part because it was babysitting. Like, she was a single mom with 2 kids, so I don't think it was so much development as it was get these kids the fuck out of my face for a go. And I briefly took judo. Very briefly, because judo wasn't my thing. Turns out hockey was my thing. I was a goalie, but not judo. But we did for a little while try the judo. And the one thing I remember is you use your opponent's weight and momentum against them.
That's right.
And that's what I do with the trolls. And it works. It works every time.
Yeah, you're one of the best at it. And case in point, you put out this tweet today. Dave Moscrop joins us again, author of this book, which we want to keep selling. Too Dumb for Democracy.
Is that
Let's put it in the face.
Is that an audio book too?
You know what? It's in the works. It's an ebook right now. It's obviously a mass paperback book, but we're working on a plan for an ebook that I would like Morgan Freeman to read. Yeah. But I don't think.
Do you need that though? Like he'll just put everybody to sleep. It'd be too hypnotic.
Oh no way!
I would have had. Yeah. I'll take what I can get. I'll do it myself because
you should. I always appreciate that when the authors actually take the time to do the work themselves. And I think it's
you want to hear from the author too when you're listening to the audio book. Like Moscrop, if you're going to like narrate your own book, if you're going to do an audio version of Too Dumb for Democracy, available everywhere, by the way, and it's excellent. If you're going to do the audiobook, there would be this appreciation for the time that you spent. Because when I listen to audiobooks, and I listen to a lot of them, when I listen to audiobooks, I'm like, well, I hope the author is actually reading this one. Like, I hope it's not some guy that co-opted to read it. Like, so it's I don't know if you're the same. I know you're a big reader, but you should read it. You've got a terrific radio voice. I think you'd be outstanding.
Well, I would like the asides too, like the little
the asides whips. The challenge is, when you reread your stuff, you're thinking, oh, well, come on, man, that's a shitty sentence. That's a terrible paragraph. They forgot this other thing. So I would love to do it. And if they have me do it, I'll absolutely do it. But for sure, I will be editing it again as I go through it.
As you're going, and telling a story about your day, right? Like,
I guess that would be the shitty part, right? It's almost like when I put out a podcast, I never want to go back and listen to it, because the one thing I'm going to listen for is all the dumb shit that I did and what I was thinking at the time when I froze, or when this happened, or when that happened. So it's like, and it's the same thing with painters. When you talk to people that do like artwork, that's your artwork, right? If you're going to go back and read it again, you're going to be coming to the end of sense. I should have used a thesaurus. I used that word too many times. Maybe we're so self-critical of our book, and it's a bestseller. It's a tremendous book. I've read it cover to cover, and it really is like a wonderful handbook into, where we are and where we came from, and specifically in this ridiculous neo-fascist uprising that we're seeing, is theocratic bullshit that we're watching warp its way around certain institutions and specifically in our society. But the way that book reads, to me, it's like, oh, someone's been able to go back and put together this little timeline of different cultures during human history that intentionally fucked it up, right? That intentionally were like, fuck it, let's just keep going. Let's just figure this out later.
So
Don't
this
worry
is all
about
on purpose?
Yeah.
Well, it was on purpose in the sense that it was consciously done. I mean, one of the interesting things, and that chapter, there's a chapter dedicated to that specifically, and it was the longest chapter. And my editor came back to me and was like, this can't be the entire book. You have to cut this. I had to cut that pretty much in half because I spent a huge amount of time going through the history of it. And they're like, no, you got to pare it back down. But one of the things you notice is that you look back throughout history and you think, well, these folks just didn't know better. We know better because we're very clever. We're very, very clever. Good for us. We're very, very clever. The most clever. A lot of people are saying we're very clever.
Cleverest.
The cleverest. But, it's not like the Romans or the Sumerians didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know they were making bad decisions, that their institutions were collapsing. They weren't stupid. They absolutely knew what was happening, but they were caught in these institutions that were just rotting out from the bottom, and eventually just everything comes tumbling down. And my favorite example is Sumer. And, one of the things they did was they had to farm, much like we have to farm. Well, they didn't use the fallow farming system. And so what happens? Well, all your fields get overly salinated and the soil turns to dust. Now you can't feed yourselves. But they couldn't stop because they had to meet quotas that were necessary for paying people, right? To keep the army fed, to keep everybody rolling. And they couldn't pare back. And because they were an empire, they didn't want to reduce the size of the empire. They had these commitments. They couldn't downsize. So they just kept going, but they knew what they were doing. And then it falls apart. It's what Susan Wise Bauer calls the first ecological disaster.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and that was one of the things that you said at the start of the pandemic. It was like, and you watch how Canada has evolved over the past little bit, like watching Pierre Poilieveres traipse around this country and tell everybody, "Hey, look out! You're gonna look out! I'm the guy." Like, I don't know if you've seen what he's been doing lately. You see some of the stuff that he's been up to, and just repeating the same mistakes that we watched south of the border. And I'm going to get to the January 6th stuff too. But there's Pierre. There's him in a. He's learned a lot. I don't know if you remember this. Donald Trump. He's in a truck. He's trying to honk the horn. Can't do it. He looks so happy. There's Donald Trump about 4 years ago doing the same thing. I mean, not just even from the scenery and the imagery, but the way that we're going as a society. This book explains how it just keeps happening, and we continue to try to do this same democratic experiment. But we never do learn from our mistakes. We always do grab more than we can fucking deal with. And it's almost like, if you haven't read, it's a brilliant book. And I'm waxing about it for far too long, even though you probably
No.
You can never
it's
wax it up
a little bit
about it.
like sports. If I can present a hockey analogy, when you get a winning team, a team that goes to the playoffs and wins the Stanley Cup, that following summer, everyone dissects the success of that team and they go and they try to duplicate it. Well, you can never duplicate exactly what the Dallas Stars did or the Colorado Avalanche did, but there's an attempt to try to do that, right? And then the rules change in the fall, and then all of a sudden another team shoots up through the middle and tries to. I think you can equate it a bit to sports in that there is this attempt always to copy the success other people had. And I'm seeing that in Canada with the Conservative Party. They're trying to copy what has been successful for the Republican Party in the States, but they're not really doing it as well. And it just seems
Campy,
awkward.
cheesy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a copy. And actually, it's funny, when you think of sports, I was thinking about the fact that you also can't keep winning teams together anymore.
Yeah.
You used to be able to have the sort of dynasty era seems to be, I don't know if it's entirely over, but it's certainly more difficult because, people sort of say, well, I can do better elsewhere, and off they go. And so those teams fall apart too because those institutions aren't built to last.
Well, I think the money is an issue though, David, too, right? Like now guys they'll win, right? The Chicago Blackhawks are an example. They had a winning formula because all of their superstars were making reasonable money. Then after they won, they were like, now I want to back the truck up. And then they just made it impossible for them to build a team that could carry them any length, any distance past.
Once you got the championship, it's okay to make twice the money for half the wins, right?
Yeah.
Once you got the ring. And that's what's funny, because growing up, I was a big Red Wings fan, and one of the things I liked about the Red Wings were they had franchise players. I mean, Steve Yzerman, probably the top of the mountain, but they had franchise players, and they were really good at drafting in young folks to work around a bunch of veterans that they'd bring in towards the end of their career as well. And so it's just it was such a brilliant machine that I don't know, if you talk about copying, I'm not sure you could ever quite rebuild it the same way that they had it in the 90s and early 2000s. But man, it was great to watch that. But you had franchise guys that would stick around. I mean, Yzerman spent his whole career there. Can you imagine that now? Like, the pressure now that someone faces, and the unlikelihood of someone lasting 15 seasons for one team or whatever it was.
Well, is that so?
Yeah.
Let's draw a correlation before we get to one of your tweets today, which I thought was fucking hilarious. Let's draw a correlation to that, because I think, like, the more I see guys like Pierre Poilieveres doing the song and dance and doing that cheap, I know I can't, fucking makes me laugh so hard, that picture of him. The more I see him putting himself in situations that are incredibly familiar to us, because we've watched it all happen in the United States, is kind of alt-right fear mongering. I'm the only guy that can fix it. Gatekeepers, all the bullshit. Fear populism, and how they're using that fear and targeting his base, which we've all talked about. It's not a big deal, but it is sort of becoming a bigger deal to me, because what we're talking about is a guy who didn't lean this way for the first 15 years of his political career, and he's only had a political career. And I was having a conversation with my friend, and I wanted to ask you this question, because he said, dude, it's like wrestling. And this is a buddy of mine in the States who, he's got his own podcast. He's into philosophy. He's into history. He's into the repetitive nature of history, how every 80 or 90 years, this fascist movement rises up, and, this group tries to take on that group, and they do it with propaganda, and it goes all the way back to the Stuart Rebellion, which is, I don't want to get into it right now, because then we're going to be talking about the Magna Carta, and that's just way off course for me. So my point is this.
And me. I'll
you,
add
yes.
myself to that connection.
The Magna Carta, which Pierre Poilieveres doesn't understand, by the way, he put out a video. He didn't know what the fuck he was talking about.
Oh, you talking about the wood sexual video, the lumber sexual video that he put
out?
out?
The Magna Carta wrong, but anyway.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, I know. It is just the commoners rose up. No, it was the Stuart Rebellion. They were nobles, you fucking idiot. Anyway, that's lost on people who aren't as academic as me.
Sure.
Anyway, This is a joke. But my point is this, is that he said, dude, think of it like the WWE, a guy like Pierre Poilieveres, or a guy like Donald Trump, or a guy like J.D. Vance. These people know exactly what they're doing, and they know that they're playing a part. But if you could get them in a moment, they would tell you that that's the case. He said they would tell you they're LARPing, they would tell you they're cosplaying, and they're doing it to effect. They're doing it because they know it works. Their end game is the same end game as every political party or every ideologues group, which is, we want to affect change for ourselves, but it is purely out of selfish need. It's purely out of playing a role. Is there anything to that? Like, if you got a guy like Pierre Poilieveres in a moment, and I know what his attachments are, and I don't want to go down that religious road, but whatever. But if you got these guys in a moment, would they tell you that, do you think? And because this is all, when he said it, it was like a fucking light went off. I'm like, oh, I get it. You got your heels, you got your these guys, you got your that guys, and this is the role that they're playing, because they're seeing how incredibly accessible everyone else's, specifically psycho money, is here in this country. and they're able to kettle this group of people. And staying away from the conspiracy theories, that's the feel that this has taken on specifically in this country. This theocratic movement towards one person being the idealist to go and fight on behalf, because Trump did it when he was getting elected in the United States, right? He was like, I'm the only guy that can fix it. I'm the only guy that can remove the gatekeepers. I'm that guy. It really feels like these guys are all playing a role, or it's like fucking political dress up at this point. Because I find it impossible to believe that anybody who's got a degree or some kind of fucking brain or an IQ or has the ability to reason would look at a guy like Pierre Poilieveres and go, that guy's telling the truth, and he's probably right about everything that he's saying, because he's ridiculous. Like, just fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, the question to ask is, what is the first thing that our brain wants, right? It's like, what we enter into a space, politics, sports, a career, whatever. It's like, what are you striving for? What is it that you need to fulfill first and foremost? And is it truth and justice and fairness? I mean, for a lot of people, it's not. We're looking for something else. We want to be loved. We want to be respected. We want to be powerful. We want to be comfortable. We want wealth. We want all of these things that are inconsistent with
reach around,
good politics. The old Doug reach around. That's one of my favorite jokes. That was a Jon Stewart joke, I think. It was like, the inventor of the reach around, Doug reach around. Jon Stewart, who we could also talk about for not doing the world a political favor, but it's a different discussion. But we want all of these things, and they're not consistent with good politics. And so you get bad politicians because the incentive structure is such that if you can do a bit, then you do a bit. And if the bit wins, now you're committed to the bit because that's what works, right? It's the reason that a lot of folks in media commit to a very particular style because it works for them. It doesn't always produce the best media. I'm guilty of this too, but it definitely works for them. I mean, I'm guilty of it a little bit, not
all the way.
Not all the way. But it's serious. I mean, it produces bad outcomes. But then they say, well, it's what I have to do. And political parties will say this all the time, because if we don't do this, we'll lose. And if we lose, it's going to be better, or it's going to be worse off because the other side is worse. So it's Platonic in the sense that it goes all the way back to this Plato, the idea of the noble lie, is that we have to do this because if we lived in a truthful way, it would produce all these wretched outcomes. And you don't want that. So just trust us, we've got to do it this way. And yet you're right. I've talked to lots of politicians from across parties. And when you get them one-on-one in private, they'll say to you, all but the most deluded or sociopathic, oh yeah, well, that's bullshit, but like, what are you going to do? It's the game.
What are you going to do? Yeah, that's the thing. Right?
And then everybody commits to, well, what are you going to do? And then you're either a sucker for not doing it, because why would you play by a different set of rules, or a martyr? And like,
no one votes for the martyr.
Well, what good? The thing about the martyrs, they die. It's not a great career move for them.
I love that.
Martyr sounds like a great time until you realize what happens to the martyr every time and someone's called a martyr.
Never ends well in the story.
No,
the story.
It's good for the rights holders, maybe, but it's not good for you. So everyone's like, well, fuck it. I'm going to play by the same rules as everyone else. But then the rules are shit. And then what happens? A race to the bottom, because no one's going to play by the rules. No one's going to be a sucker. You punch, you're going to punch back twice as hard. And then the institutions start to collapse because no one's playing by the rules. There goes your
We got to freeze.
We got to
freeze of the podcast. Yeah.
Can I point out something that David suggested? And I don't know if maybe I just missed his point. But I think
which is heated democracy.
Yeah.
Am I risen?
Yeah. No, you're freezing a little bit, but that's okay because Dave, here's the other thing, and this is interesting because I wanted to get to this part of the conversation too, is that I don't know if you guys know this, about two weeks ago, Rogers went out across the country, and David's one of those guys who's on like team Oligopoly, team break up the Oligopoly. So like if you've watched his tweet storm over the past couple of days, he's been trying so hard to get like decent Wi-Fi in his house. And before we got on, he's like, I got a new modem. Everything's going to be great, but you still don't have the Wi-Fi. It's fucking hilarious because we have 2 Wi-Fi companies in this country and nobody seems to be able to give David good Wi-Fi where he lives. Like not one person.
I'm back. Can you hear me, everybody?
Yeah, I got you now. Yeah, I got you.
Thank God. Yeah, I'm going to say, I am with Tech Savvy. I don't get anything for this, by the way. This is just, they don't give me things.
Yeah.
So I'm not doing a bit for
It's not a stroke job. Yeah, I get it. I got it. Yeah.
I'd be
I
okay
love
if it was.
Tech Savvy, always have, and it's not their fault. I mean, we have a structural problem because they have to deal with the folks who own the infrastructure, and that's either Rogers or Bell or Telus. And it happens to be Rogers in my area of town. And we can't switch to Bell because there's no high-speed internet in our part of town for Bell. So you're sort of stuck with Rogers. But I have to say, Tech Savvy, to their credit, has been very, very good, and we're solving the problem. But it has been a lot of solve this problem because there are big structural problems. And those problems are echoed. The Rogers outage was a great example of how we have now become a society that's deeply dependent on connectivity, not just for faffing about. This isn't just for screwing around, playing games, or chatting with your friends, group chats or whatever. This is about 911. This is about purchasing things. This is about being able to work. This is about being able to order the things you need to get through the day. It is fun, like getting a car. This is fundamental to our day-to-day life, banking, right? And we learn that. Now our infrastructure is not prepared, and things are not going to get better. Ottawa has had a wretched summer, for instance. Storms have took out the internet. That's not Rogers' fault, but the power went down because we were too cheap or stupid to bury the power lines. So all our power lines are up. And this infrastructure is just not ready. It's a critical security risk. It's a public safety risk. It's an economic risk. It's a social risk. And we're just not ready. And it's only going to get worse because of climate change. And so we've got these companies who don't really have the incentive to provide you with a better service or a better infrastructure because, wow, what are you going to do? What are you going to move to Europe? You want to move to Europe?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Sit around all day in the piazza? Enjoy your life?
Yeah.
Guess what? We talked to the other guy, and they're going to charge just as much as we are. So you're fucked.
I remember, I lived in Korea years ago, and I paid. They had some of the best internet in the world per capita. My cell phone bill. This is pre-smartphone, but it's still super cheap. It's like $15 a month. But in around the world, it's cheaper. And the companies here always say, "Well, we're different. We're a big sparse country. We have fewer people." But look at Australia. Australia has better deals than we do. It's a big sparse country, right?
By half.
We're getting screwed big time, and the government does fuck all, and the companies are perfectly happy with the oligopoly, and customers are proud.
Okay, so did you see the response? Dave Moscrop joins us, the author of Too Dumb for Democracy, journalist for the Washington Post, Globe and Mail. Did you see the government response, Minister Champagne's response to this whole thing? I wanted to get specifically your impression of it because
do I want
dude, I laughed my ass off because we didn't have the internet, we didn't have wireless. My parents hadn't had it for 13 days. My dad finally just bit the bullet because he was an executive for Rogers, so he got a nice deal. He still couldn't get Wi-Fi for 13 days after the outage. So he went and got a bunch of different services so that he wasn't never reliant on one service again, which is nice. But it was fascinating because I thought there was an opportunity there when half the fucking country didn't have access to their phone, 911, doctor's appointments, schedules, Zoom calls, Zoom court, all that shit, because Rogers is useless, Interact, everything. Because we've got 2 telco providers. I thought that was such a fucking incredible opportunity for this government who is under the thumb and under the gun right now to go, you know what? Let's open it up. Let's give everybody an opportunity to have cheaper wireless bills, which are like 3 times, 4 times in most cases what they are in like average countries that have several different internet providers and wireless providers, like 3 times that amount. And I thought it was an opportunity, and they fucking wasted it by the Champagne guy going, you know what? We're going to force these guys when an outage happens to work together. We're going to force them to work together to cover for each other, as opposed to having several providers to make it a lot easier. Like, it just seemed like it was the easiest win in the world, and they took the fucking coward's way out.
And there's meant to be redundancy in the system now, right? There's supposed to. Obviously, it did not happen. It did not work. There wasn't sufficient redundancy. The networks weren't, properly protected, and it was an incredible fuck up. And truly, so there's a couple of schools of thought here. One is, okay, well, we need more competition, but we have to deal with two different levels here. One is a level of infrastructure. We're talking, the towers, the cables, everything involved with actually making the network work. Extremely expensive, capital intensive, labor intensive, investment, a lot of upkeep. You've got to upgrade it when the next iteration of the Wi-Fi comes out, right? You got 3G, you got 4G, you got 5G. It's expensive and difficult, and only a few people can actually undertake that because it's a massive investment. And so we got to say, okay, well, what do we want to do about the infrastructure level? And people like me come along and say, I don't want that infrastructure to actually be in the hands of a private entity at all. I'd much rather that the infrastructure be a public resource and publicly managed and a public good that it exists across the country. Take it out of the private sphere altogether. Yeah. The next level is the level of service provision. Right now, the way it works is Rogers, Bell sell to secondary providers like TechSavvy, who then sell to you, and the wholesale rate is set by the CRTC. Used to be lower. The CRTC said, actually, oops, we made a mistake by making it lower. Fuck you, fuck us. We're actually going to raise it back up. And so the wholesale rate went back up, and so our bills went back up. Yeah. But at the competition level is where people say either let's have a national provider, or let's have a national provider who competes, or let's have foreign companies come in, or let's have a mix of that so that we get cheaper rates at the consumer point. And that's real, as far as I'm concerned, where the real debate's got to happen. But it's not happening because people get really angry about it, but not enough to elect governments that will actually do something about it. Because the Liberals keep promising to make it better by doing what Champagne's done. Let's ask politely. Yeah. And the governor's like, yeah, of course. Yeah, we got you. We got this, man. We'll get you next week for sure. We're good?
Yeah, we're going to credit your bill. I got a $21 credit on my last bill.
I didn't even bother looking. I'm like, I'm just going to be pissed. Whatever it is going to piss me off.
$21?
$21. Yeah, I didn't have internet.
I mean, if you're not a customer of Rogers, you probably got fuck all, but you were probably screwed by the outage if you couldn't bank or call or get to the hospital or whatever it might be. There were a lot of people who couldn't do things who aren't customers who got sweet fuck all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, dude. I mean, the cost of doing business that day, I can't remember what they said, but the cost to our GDP for having no ability to connect through that service because half the country has been kettled into using that one service. It's like 600 million or something like that. And it was a blip on the screen, and then here's the other part. I've been inundated with telemarketing calls from Rogers, hey, we just want to see if your service is good. Apologize for everything. It was good. What? And then I got a bill yesterday for next month. I got a bill for August, already next month. I got August because they're trying to grab as much money as they can, or it underscores the entire problem, which you call it the telco trench coat mafia when you talk about it, right? Which is, we're at the behest of whether or not these guys are competent at what they do. And listen, if that's your you've seen the tweets, you had one job. When you're a wireless internet company, you literally had one job, is just to keep the wireless and the internet going. That's it. And they couldn't do that.
There's still rumors floating around that they got hacked.
Yeah.
That's the rumor, right?
That's the rumor.
They got and they were asked for Bitcoin or whatever there's no way that, and here's the thing is that there's no way to be accountable. I was listening to this great Twitter Spaces with some telco communicators from the Globe and Mail, maybe some of your colleagues there, David. And the spaces that they did, they were talking about how you'll never know. You'll never know because there's literally zero accountability. These people don't have to be hauled in front of anybody for hearings, which in every other free market country, not third world country, you would think that would happen, right? You would think that something of that magnitude, you would have hearings, you would have questions, you would have groups of people going, no. We as Canadians are super tired of not just paying these inflated rates, but we're really tired of being forced into the system where we don't have a choice if the lights go out. And the lights went out across the country. It wasn't just one province, right? It was interactive. What was it?
10 million people or something like that. And all and Champagne said, well, the CRTC is going to investigate, and there's going to be an investigation by the CRTC. And I was like, oh yeah. In the same way that the Fox investigates the chicken house, I guess. Right?
I got a funny story.
That's not
relating to
like Parliament. You know, there's a push to get this investigated by Parliament, which is what there should be. There should be a deep, and I want to see like people sitting there sweating because they're being raked over the coals. So that's what we deserve.
Yeah,
I have
agree.
a quick story relating to the outage.
Guaranteed, it's not quick.
It's quick. My co-host James P. White, who I have told 100 times, has this gift. He has this unbelievable gift of living in his own world. He does not, it's impenetrable. He's got a bubble around him and he just exists without the influence of the outside world. We're driving into work today talking about a golf tournament he was at on Friday, July 7th. And he goes, crazy thing, something happened when we were there. I think like a tornado or something must have hit a tower because we had no cell service, couldn't get cash from anybody. He said, I went, no, that was the whole country. He goes, no, it was just the ranch golf course. And I went, are you fucking with me right now? And he goes, what? I'm like, you realized that the entire country, no, it didn't. It was just the golf course. It was a tornado, small one, but it hit the cell tower. And I'm like, oh my God, I love you. You need to go on the road and do a TED talk about how to disconnect yourself from the entire fucking planet. It's a gift. I wish I had an ounce of that. He had no idea and was doing news that week. He was filling in doing news on the radio show.
Oh, no one gets their news from you, dude. Seriously. I hope no one gets their news from 957 in Edmonton. Yeah. Yeah, it's
in
weird.
Related news, the golf course lost its power and its internet. But you know, it makes me. It does bring up one thing that I've wanted to talk about for some time. When will white golfers finally catch a break?
Yeah, and white tennis players too.
It just, you know,
So hard done by.
I've been wondering that for quite some time. You see a bunch of white guys getting hammered on the.
It is so
on the
difficult
golf
to
course.
play in
You're
the
like,
PGA
man, you guys
Tour.
are having a tough time. Yeah, you guys.
Sometimes
look
they
like
play
you're really
4
struggling.
rounds a week, right?
Yeah, that's hard. It's a big.
Could you do that?
No.
Well, that was daycare for me as a kid, Nick. I started golfing as a kid. My mom was like, "This is great. I'm going to drop you off in the morning. I'll see you at 5 o'clock. Here are your clubs. Here's $5 for lunch.
Yeah, get a banquet burger. Go to the range." So I know that we've waxed about a couple of things. One of the things one of my favorite things that you do is tweet. Any tweet, really. If you don't follow Moscrop, you have to. He might be the best tweeter. I don't know if we want to call you a dry tweeter. You're an assassin, really, and you make it look easy. Today you put this out, and I quote, "Thinking of rebranding as the David Moscrop and picking someone big to start beef with in pursuit of knowledge and truth. Who wants a piece?"
Mm-hmm. Who's in?
And I'm like, well, that's a great thing, but you'd already started it months ago with probably this is like a top 5 tweet of all time as far as I'm concerned. This one with Jordan Peterson, where he tweeted, "Hey, I'm at the local art center. Guess where in which state?" And he's standing there looking like a cool guy. Someone took a picture of him standing with his leg up on the wall. And you're like, quote, "I liked you better when you were in a coma."
I did. I didn't like him, but I liked him better. He was more sympathetic. You know, when you're sort of like, "Oh, I get it. Okay. You're just a beef sack like the rest of us." And then
David, is he intelligent? Is he smart?
I don't know. I really don't know. I'm hesitant to psychoanalyze him, at least publicly. But he's
really, you're hesitant to talk about this guy.
Well, I mean, in the sense that, you know, he's clever. Obviously, he's clever, and he's got something going for him that works. I mean, you know, he got a PhD and ended up at the University of Toronto. I mean, you know, he's obviously got something going for him.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think he's wrong about everything. Every time he says something, I'm like, no, I think that's just bullshit. I think you're absolutely wrong. It's sort of, to me, what happens when someone gets big enough that they no longer have checks and balances in their professional life, like a good editor or someone to say, actually, you know what, I think that is shit, and here's how we can unshit that, and that's part of the reason I love the people in my life who are like, okay, no, here's what's good, here's what's bad, here's what I can do better, and you constantly require that. He just seems like the sort of person who is gotten beyond the boundaries of the sort of checks and balances in a professional life that make you better at your job. And I think his advice is just sort of horse shit, hokum. Clean your room, and then you cut to a picture of the guy and his room's a giant fucking mess, and everyone's like, that's brilliant. It's like Christ. It's what Christ did, basically.
Yeah, but was he here's the thing, this is like the one thing about Jordan Peterson that everybody talks about now, is that he was never this is what my friends of mine say that read his stuff and used to think he was great, and now they're like a lot of people jumping off the Jordan Peterson bandwagon because of the anti-trans stuff, and he's so incredibly hateful, and he's been a series of tweets over the past couple of months where he's like, cruelty is important, you got to be mean to people. He's literally, he goes against the grain of everything. We had Donald J. Robertson, the author of How to Think Like a Roman Emperor, on this podcast a while ago, and he was terrific. He's like, dude, in he's a legitimate psychotherapist, and he's like, this guy is so crazy. Everybody in my profession, which he says he's in, thinks he's insane. Like, he was asked to go through 12 rules twice. He reviewed it twice, and the reviews are like bang on. It's all about, like, everything that he talks about has no like psychological or psychotherapeutic peer-reviewed study for anything that he's done. He's never put out a paper. He's never come out with anything of note that's been used in the scientific or in the psychological community in terms of what he's talking about. And it's almost like he's taking that entitlement, to your point, and he's weaponized it because somewhere deep down inside, he's been hurt personally. Like, I get this personal hurt from him every time he talks, and I don't know if was he always like that? I've never followed the guy. I've read parts of 12
He seemed more stable back in the day.
Well, I don't know if he was stable because I never followed him. That's my point. Is this like a recent thing, or is this like post coma Jordan Peterson, to prove your point?
I don't know, in the sense that I did not follow him closely. I've had to go through his stuff because I was like, okay, I'm going to try to understand this. And I think here's the thing. At some point in your career, when you get big and all the incentives push you in a particular direction, you just become more and more of yourself. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And all of the, again, to go back to what I was saying earlier, all of the sort of checks and balances that would say, well, maybe we should rein this in. Maybe we should have another look at this. Maybe we should workshop this idea a bit. Maybe we can dig around a little more and figure it out. Those just dissipate. And you do whatever you want. It's sort of like, the Beatles being bigger than Jesus, right? Mm-hmm. At some point, you've just fucked off to India, Yeah. And you're doing God knows what, because you can. And it reminds me a little bit of people like Kanye.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. Or, athletes who get super rich, super big, young, and off they go, or billionaires, Elon Musk. You like these people are like, when you were talking, it reminded me of Batman 1989, which is one of the best movies of all time. And one of the first movies I saw. Probably explains a little bit of who I am, because my dad took me to see it in 1989. I was 5 at Trent Cinemas in Peterborough. But there's a scene where they're in Bruce Wayne's mansion. He's throwing a party, and Kim Basinger's character and who plays Knox, I always forget his name. He's great. The guy? He was Arliss. He's fantastic. Anyways, they're having a conversation, and she's like, I don't. How can he be so weird? And Arliss, Knox says, well, he's rich. He can afford to be. Like, at some point you can afford to be just whatever the fuck you want, and it just becomes possible, because what are you going to do? Who's going to stop you, right? There's no checks, there's no consequences for that, really. And I think this is part of the problem. When power gets out of control, it produces what I would call undesirable outcomes, because the checks and balances aren't there. And I think it's true of individuals as it is of countries and businesses and institutions of all kinds, that we want checks, we want balances. We don't want things to become too powerful, because when they get too powerful, they fall apart, and that's bad for everyone.
Yeah. I think one of two things happens a lot of times when you get to a rich and famous point, right? Like, you reach this level of success, and then you start to maybe let your ego get out of control. And I've said this, I don't know how many times, I've said this countless times over the years. Never forget about where you were and the people that helped you get to that point, and the people in your life that had the courage when you were here to be honest with you. And I think a lot of times what ends up happening is you get to a point where you think you got there, and you start to weigh how you got there, and you might put too much weight on what your contribution was. So you start to ignore what those people said and did to help ground you. And then there's the other side of it. I think one of two things that happens where you're like, I don't need fucking Larry anymore. I got here on my own. Like, this was me, right? Fuck you, Larry. Or Larry keeps going along, but realizes at some point that you're an asshole. So now Larry's sabotaging you. And then he's behind the scenes going, that's a fucking good idea, Trump. You should go do that. You got to make sure you keep those people in your life that are honest with you. When you get rich, man, it is even more important. I can't imagine. We could sit here all day and talk about examples of this.
Dude,
where
I watched it all night. I was watching the January 6th hearing. You guys watch that last night? You guys watch the January 6th hearing?
For a bit, and I went and play Call of Duty. But
oh, did you? I cannot watch it anymore.
Only a little bit, you know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but it was legitimately what we're talking about now. You know, it was this collection of people that were given so much power, that were so entitled, that they just thought, if Trump being the main thinker here, if you can call him that, they just thought it didn't matter. Like, you know, they used the analogy last night where Trump's like, I could go into the middle of Fifth Avenue, shoot somebody, and I wouldn't lose any voters. And he literally believed that. Like, that was his impression, his perspective of himself. And where it relates to Jordan Peterson, again, guys like that, people like that believe all the things about themselves, that sense of entitlement. They don't have to answer to anybody. They don't have, you know, they go on their YouTube channels or they go on their Twitter feeds and they can say and come and go as they like. And as a result, you know, you're seeing people motor past societal norms. You're seeing people hurt each other. You're seeing the political institutions in this country and in North America literally get destroyed because no one's willing to do anything, right? That sense of entitlement was on display last night to the point, like, you remember Josh Hawley? Do you remember? He was a big part of this whole thing last night. The Josh Hawley, the
Help
congressman
me out here.
Do you say this guy that did the fist pump? Don't you remember this guy, Josh Hawley? This guy, remember when he came out? This is January 6th.
Oh, that dick.
Yeah. Did you see this?
Yeah.
He comes out and he gives it the fist pump to everybody, all the insurrectionists that are starting to collect on the Capitol, because he's like, yeah, let's fight the power. Let's get this thing overturned, because this guy is hiding in the entitlement of the president of the United States at the time, which was Donald Trump. And then they played this video. I'll play it for you. They played this video of this is last night in the hearing. This is what entitlement does, because this is who this guy really is. They played a video of him literally hightailing it out of there when he realized that the Capitol was compromised. Watch this.
That's him leaving on January 6th.
There's a music added effect.
Yeah, the Chariots of Fire. Look at that.
That's not a graceful run either. I'm sorry.
But isn't that what we're talking about? Like, isn't that sense of entitlement, that sense of power, that ability that people have? Pierre's exploiting it right now. I mean, you know, isn't that kind of what we're talking about? Is that inability to actually know thyself, as we say, know thyself? No, none of these people.
Well,
Jordan Peter doesn't know who he is. He's projecting who he is so that he can get what he wants out of this world, and he doesn't have to be accountable. The same thing with Donald Trump. I mean, there is no accountability in anything that guy does, to the point where he actually put out this. Did you see his statement today, Dave? You see this? It's truly remarkable.
No.
Where he basically admitted to everything, saying, hey, Mike Pence told me and everybody else there was nothing he could do about the electoral vote count. It was etched in stone. But if so, how come Democrats and rhinos are working so hard to make sure there's nothing a VP can do? This was a major event because everybody ganged up and said that Mike had no choice, blah, blah, blah. Like, he goes on and on and on and basically says we wouldn't be in this situation had the big event, which was the coup, succeeded. Like, that's the same kind of poisonous, like, self-entitlement or self-perspective that we're seeing out of Jordan Peterson, is it not?
Too, right? Like,
Isn't that the same thing?
I mean, the Trump narcissism and entitlement is in the stratosphere. This is something that is world historical stratosphere stuff. But it plays into this sort of great man theory of history, where people look at people and say, look, to be extraordinary.
Oh, we lost him again.
How am I doing? Am I back?
Yeah, you're back. Yeah, I got you.
You're back.
And and so it venerates historical figures. I mean, what do you think Julius Caesar was like, or Nero, or Napoleon, Genghis Khan? Right? I mean, these people, they're true believers in themselves, and they will do whatever it takes because they truly believe like they're on from God. I hate Illinois Nazis. They're on a mission from God to do this, and so there are no consequences for their actions, right? And there may be consequences for Trump at this, but it looks like maybe there won't be, and he will just forever be this sort of strongman history that, who truly believes the world would have been different had he won. But that's nothing new. That's nothing new at all. That's the foundation of the great man theory of history, and we see it all the time.
I don't know if we've seen somebody as egregious and somebody as unforgiving about the narcissism that he displays on a regular basis. I agree there's been examples of it, but I don't know if, comparatively speaking, David, we've ever witnessed anything even remotely as narcissistic and as off, like you said, it's in the stratosphere.
Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievable what he actually thinks his role is in history and what everyone else on the planet. Like, he's a buffoon, right? Like, it's just amazing.
Yeah, but we can all see it. That's the thing. Did you guys see the outtakes last night of his speech?
Yes.
You see the outtakes, dude? You see
the January 7th speech?
Here are the outtakes. This is a minute 40. What's that? Pardon?
What was the word you couldn't say? Yesterday? Tomorrow?
Yesterday, that was a tough one. Yeah. Well, here's the audio. I mean, this guy, and keep in mind, he's making a presidential address and he's winging it. This is fucking unbelievable.
I would like to begin by addressing the heinous attack yesterday. And to those who broke the law, you will pay. You do not represent our movement. You do not represent our country. And if you broke the law, you can't say that. I'm not going. I already said you will pay. The demonstrators who infiltrated the Capitol have defied the seat of justice. It's defiled, right? See, I can't see it very well. Okay, I'll do this. I'm going to do this. Let's go. But this election is now over. Congress has certified the results. I don't want to say the election's over. I just want to say Congress has certified the results without saying the election's over, okay?
But Congress is certified. Now Congress is
Yeah, right.
Now Congress
I didn't say over, so let me see. Go to the paragraph before. Okay? I would like to begin by addressing the heinous attack yesterday. Yesterday is a hard word for me.
Just take it out. The heinous attack.
Ah, good. Take the word yesterday, because it doesn't work with the heinous attack
It doesn't
on
work
our
with-
country. Say on our country.
What the?
Want to say that?
No,
Doesn't work in that
My
sentence?
only goal was to ensure the integrity of the vote. My only goal was to ensure the integrity of the vote.
What is that, Dave? What is that?
That's frustration. Frustration that he's being forced to read something he doesn't believe.
Yeah.
He doesn't believe it. He doesn't. That's not the message he wants to relay. Like,
he doesn't believe it, or he doesn't. So this is the question I want to ask. He either doesn't believe what he's saying, or he's trying not to fucking get himself sued into next week and thrown in jail. Like, or is that just his sense of entitlement coming out? Like, what is that?
That was being forced to say something he didn't want to. We lost David again.
Gotcha.
Oh, there he is.
No, I think he believes it. I think he's that delusional as to believe it. And I think maybe that's what happens when you're told your entire life that you're owed something, that you're right, that everything you do is perfect, that you are different, that you are better, that you are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think you produce narcissists who just don't know what the boundaries are, don't know what reality looks like. And part of it, though, what, to respond to Lachlan's point earlier, because I think he's right, Trump is next level. We don't see this very often. I compared him, others have compared him, it's not just me, to Mussolini. He's got a real Mussolini thing going on. But think about this. We've also never been in an era of mass communication where we have as much information in real time as we do now. So everything that's existed throughout history is now amplified to an extraordinary degree that was never possible before. So we see things now we would have never seen before. We've also created technologies that allow these folks to boost themselves, to say what they want whenever they want, and so that narcissism is just constantly on display. And what's social media if not a megaphone for narcissists, right? And so of course, they're going to be, including me for sure, you've got to be a bit of a narcissist to be on Twitter as much as someone like me is on Twitter. But it's a megaphone, and so you're constantly out there, just and so we see it all. So I do think what we're getting a sense of now is a deeper look into what has always existed, but that we couldn't always see because we weren't connected in the way that we're connected now. But of course, the technology is such that it's going to induce us to produce more and more and more of the same stuff because we're basically on a slot machine all day, right? So it's like, narcissists now have a megaphone, and that megaphone is activated by a slot machine, right? And it's pretty much a disaster every day because it's structurally designed to produce disasters, right? Can't produce anything but disasters. But those disasters, great for business.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's, to go back to my book, one of the things I argue, we've sort of, if you were to design a world, an institution, a series of institutions, a series of technologies, a series of processes, custom built to produce bad political decisions and outcomes, it would look an awful lot like what we've produced. We did this on purpose to fuck things up.
Democracy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like it's a concerted effort, right? I mean, that's the way it looks to me too. The book is called Too Dumb for Democracy, by the way. It's David Moscrop's book. It's outstanding. I would highly suggest you get it anywhere you can, and help David get past the Communist Manifesto on the popularity book list on every chart. That'd be nice.
Help me afford internet that I so desperately need to play Call of Duty. Because you don't want to work.
I don't blame you. Listen, David, I know you got to go, so we'll let you split here. But I want to thank you for doing some time with us today. I really appreciate it. Real quick, though, before I let you go, do you not think Trump's going to go to jail? Do you think he's going to get indicted, or do you think he's going to walk?
Well, first of all, Robert Wool,
Arliss.
Robert, what a great, fantastic actor. I guarantee everyone has seen this person something. I don't think he'll go to jail. I don't, and the line will be, and I don't disagree with this. I actually think there's something to it. It's probably worse for the country in a utilitarian sense to put the guy in jail. The risk of putting him away would stoke a kind of politics of backlash, of resentment, of violence that could very well lead to, I don't want to over exaggerate, but could lead to a further decline of the institution.
I don't think you're wrong. I don't think you're wrong, David.
I think we're risking that versus the trade-off of setting an example for other people. Like back in the day, this is what happened with Nixon, right? It was like, Gerald Ford pardoned Richard Nixon. It was wildly controversial, but he did it because he wanted to put everything behind us. You put a 30 stop on it and you move on. And that's more or less what happened. That was it. Nixon didn't completely disappear, but he didn't pull a Trump.
They put an ankle bracelet on him and sent him to a home, on a golf course in Arizona.
But like Trump's not going to go away, and criminalizing him and putting him away could very well produce something that was worse. And in fact, it all cashes out this way. It's possible, this is a hypothesis, it's possible that the cure in that case is worse than the disease. That's a question that really has to be asked. And I don't know the answer. I'm just saying that's something we deeply have to think about, because it's live ammo.
Fucking bang on, Dean. It's bang on.
Oh, I don't
He's
disagree.
right.
That's, dude, like, have you not seen how many guns are
We
in
would
the United
activate
States
that
and how
country.
many crazy fucking Christian people there are down there going, if President Trump needs me, I'm the guy, and I'm going to show up, and I got my guns, and our Second Amendment right was made for this. Like, that's the big thing. Everybody's like, hey, listen, the reason why we have guns, like Ronnie Jackson. I don't know. Did you see Ronnie Jackson's video last week? Former physician for Obama. He's standing there with a couple AR-15s. He's like, I'm in Texas, Biden, come and get me. He's like gun fetish porn for people down in the United States. And there are like hundreds of millions of people that feel the exact same way, that would rather fight to somebody than be admitted to be wrong or be embarrassed by the fact that they've been conned by this guy, like literally conned by this guy for 6 or 7 years. This guy's a fucking con artist. That's all he is. And it stands to reason that you're right. The cure might not be what we think it is if this guy goes to jail or if he gets indicted. I don't know what it looks like. I can't imagine a world where what I watched last night and everything that I've consumed over the past few weeks in this J6 stuff, where a guy could literally commit sedition, commit treason, lie, try to fucking take over the government with a bunch of rednecks from militias across the United States, and nothing happened to him. Like I didn't grow up in that. I grew up in a world where my dad was like, hey, listen, we're immigrants to this country, so don't ever speak poorly about the prime minister. And whatever you do, don't get caught doing something wrong, because you're going to get pumped out of this country. So I had this ultimate respect. My dad was like, you're going to get deported if you steal. I'm just letting you know. You're going to go back and going all on your own. And you're going to. And I'm like, holy shit. I had a real understanding of law and the way that the law worked. But over the past several years, specifically in this case and in Canada, when it comes to the convoy stuff, I have no idea if anybody's going to get charged for things that they should be charged for. And what I'm seeing with this January 6th stuff and all the receipts we've had from it, it's like, well, if he doesn't get charged with something, like, I mean, if he's not hauled onto the mat for something, what the fuck are we doing here after everything that I've seen?
But they didn't charge Nixon either, right? I mean, and the mistake is, the old saying that, if you owe the bank $1,000, you've got a problem. If you owe the bank $1 million, they've got a problem. Mm-hmm. It's not about justice. It's about power. At the end of the day, the whole apparatus, we think it's about justice and fairness. It's not.
It never was.
Justice and fairness. It never was. It's about power. And that's why people get treated differently at different echelons of power. And there's a certain point at which there's a utilitarian calculation that says, oh, that is morally wrong. But in a utilitarian sense of a calculus of good versus bad outcomes, may be advisable. Hence why you might say, maybe it was good that Nixon was pardoned. Maybe it's good that Trump doesn't go to prison, in a very utilitarian sense, as much as we'd like to say, fuck yeah. Because that's what we want to see, because he did something heinous. And the reminder is fundamentally what we do is based on power. Our institutions, our systems are about power. They're not about justice and fairness, as much as we fight for those things. And it's what people would call suboptimal.
Suboptimal. It's a nice way to put it. Follow David at David Moscrop on Twitter. He's one of the best follows you'll follow. One of the best people you'll follow.
He's great. I'm not drinking right now.
Well, you should. Surprised Moscrop doesn't have a black Manhattan in front of him right now. Look at that. He's got a hipster glass. He's had an espresso.
Just a normal espresso glass.
That's a hipster glass.
I mean, if you put it in your glass, and it's weird.
Well, what's in the glass? Do you got a coffee in the glass?
It was espresso.
But was there, like, because what Loch will do is he'll bring a hipster espresso glass down. He'll bring that, but there's Jameson in it with his coffee.
This is ethanol.
Oh, is it? It's straight alcohol. Thanks for doing this, buddy. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on. See you again.
Great to see you, David. Author, journalist, David Moscrop. His book, Too Dumb for Democracy, is one of the best. Go get it. It's really, really
the one
good.
thing,
Mark Burry wrote the foreword for it, as a matter of fact. Great read, full of many aha moments. Too Dumb for Democracy, David Moscrop, ladies and gentlemen.
I do agree with him, and he's very smart, and he does sort of take this very complicated very complicated ideas and things that we're dealing with in the world, and boil them down for you to a point where even a dumb guy that got honors at Yakai can understand. But I do disagree with him on one perspective, is that I don't think that Trump is typical of any leader we have ever had in the history of mankind, just based on the fact that he had access to social media and was able to amplify his narcissism on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's true. I think that he is very unique in his level of narcissism, in his level of corruption, in the level of things that he is getting away with and will get away with. I don't think there is an example of that. And not only that, I don't think there's an example of that level of narcissism combined with that level of fucking pure stupidity. We're never going to get another Trump. It's just never going to happen. But I don't disagree with him. I've thought of that as well. If they put him to jail, and this is based on a personal experience, I have made people angry in my career for years. You are an example of a broadcaster that did the same. I've been hauled into offices. I've had to explain things I've said on the air. I've gotten letters. I've gotten faxes. I've gotten phone calls. I've gotten texts. I've had people show up at the radio station
To fight?
and well, yes, and be angry about things I've said, even music I've played or not played. I have seen every level of confrontation just based on what I've gone through as a small time broadcaster here in Canada that's been on the radio for over 25 years. I've never seen the level of anger by saying something negative about Trump that I saw. Like, it's nothing comparable. People were losing their minds on me on social media, on the phone lines, on text lines. It was
when you would
insane.
savage Trump, when you would talk like back when he was the president and everybody was in disbelief.
It made
that this complete fucking buffoon thought that. Do you remember when he was like, you're going to stick ultraviolet light under the skin and then you're going to insert some Javex into someone's asshole. Everything's going to be fine, right?
Captain
COVID, right?
Bone Spurs, right?
Yeah,
Like
Captain,
just even calling him something like that.
Yeah.
The level of hatred that came back to me, the discussion about Trump on the air and that 4-year period of time was one of the hardest 4 years of my life in broadcasting. There was not a day that went by that I didn't question the things that we were doing on the air. Because of
the backlash you would get from people when you were talking about a clear idiot.
Yeah. You can make fun of anybody. And it was baffling to me because he's a moron. He is a complete poisonous, narcissistic fuck. He's just a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
And the fact that there was so much devotion to that orange piece of shit was just absolutely shocking to me, like shocking. And then to have people like literally phone me and go, I will come down to if you ever say another thing about him again, I'm going to come down to the radio station. Like that was happening on a weekly basis.
Were these American listeners to your show or
these
Canadian
are
listeners?
Canadian listeners?
This is the, yeah, I know, right? And
it's unbelievable. That's what made it
he,
even more disturbing.
Can I tell you my theory on that? On the Canadian MAGA fans? Can I tell you my theory on these people?
Yeah.
It's almost like they found somebody that was publicly stupid, that ensconced and had made it okay for those fucking losers to come out of the basement and get out of chat rooms. Like the really hateful shit. It was almost like he could bring 8chan and 4chan and all the people on those fucking dark websites out of the fucking crevices of society into the mainstream. Like the conspiracy shit, the lies, the anger, the hatred towards people of color. His
He's a racist. Yeah, like it's just, there's
all
so
of it.
many levels to this.
Like every fucking white supremacist racist that has been hiding for the past like 20 years since we've started to kind of move away from the KKK and colonial settlerism. And like they looked at him like he's going to stand up for the people that don't want to change. He's going to stand up for us who feel embarrassed to be ourselves because the world is progressing towards a societal norm that's healthier. And we don't like that, like the anti-pronoun crowd, that group, the group of fucking losers who are like, we want to, like the people that Pierre Poilieveres is trying to attach himself to, the reclamation people, the people who look back in history and, back when we settled in this North American territory in 1776, we didn't have to worry about calling people the N-word. We just could. And we want to go back to that. And Donald Trump is that personified. And when he came down those stairs, it was almost like every podunk, racist, low IQ, angry white fuck was like, now I can come out of the shadows, because that guy did. That guy is clearly me and I'm him. And he doesn't care that he sounds like an idiot, and he doesn't care that he's racist. So that means it's now an acceptable view. And then he becomes the president.
Mm-hmm.
He becomes the president of the United States. And the one thing that a lot of people said when he became the president, which I found fascinating, was like, what do we tell our kids? Traditionally, people that ascend to those positions of power are people who have great reputations, who make good decisions for people, aren't outwardly hateful, aren't incredibly stupid. Like, basically, that was an excuse. Donald Trump was an excuse for stupid racists in North America to continue to be stupid racists in North America, but to do it out loud, unabashedly. That's my theory, is that he empowered the worst and the dumbest. And Pierre Poilieveres is doing the exact same thing in this country, only the dog whistles are a lot more sly and there's more nuance to it. I'm going to play you something, and I thought this was fascinating. This is Pierre Poilieveres talking about masking.
And you know what? Dean's not wrong. PP is using the Trump playbook in Canada to gain power of the Conservative Party in Canada.
Yeah.
He is absolutely doing it blow by blow, step by step, play by play. It is so obvious that it's scary.
Let me play this video.
I'm driving behind people with signs that say PP for Prime Minister. I see them every day in Edmonton, Dean. It's starting to bother me. It's starting to concern me that
Well,
people
here's the
can't
guy.
see the truth.
Well, and they can't see it because they're just as dumb as all those other stupid fucking racists, colonial religious racists that just want to go back to a simpler time when you could drop the N-word and beat your wife.
And
Okay,
I'm a
let me play this.
conservative. I consider
I know.
myself a conservative.
Yeah, but not this kind of conservative. You're like
No.
old school conservative. Watch this.
So I followed the rules. I wore my mask on the plane, just like Justin Trudeau has insisted upon, although he was at an event on a train the other day with his mask off, surrounded by people in close quarters. You see, it makes perfect sense because the COVID virus always respects jurisdiction, and that is a provincially regulated train. Therefore, the virus will not spread. Unlike this federally regulated airplane. That is the political science, folks. Rules for thee, but not for he.
Like,
Is
fire
he wrong,
starting.
though?
Yeah, 100%. And I'll tell you why in a second. Fire starting based on Justin Trudeau shaking hands with a lady and her baby on a train. He turned that into, look what he's doing to you. Look what he's doing to you by making people like us wear these on a plane. But he doesn't care about you. He only cares about himself. And then he's at trains, and there's a planes, and then a big difference. That's a
You're
video
not
that he put on
triggered.
his
Okay, all right, I
social
understand
media.
that. PP's, I get it, and I understand it, and it's politics, and that's what he's doing, and it's so blatantly obvious. He's not.
But
he's
who
not
does
saying
that appeal
anything.
to? But who does that appeal to? That
I'll tell you,
appeals
he's
to
not
the
wrong,
same
though.
people. Well, he is, because that appeals to the same fucking losers that showed up to Ottawa, camped out for a fucking month.
But
And
if you're
going to
have a
down
rule for
apartment buildings.
planes, Dean, here's my point. If
Yeah.
you're going to have a rule for planes, then respect the fact that people are going to be watching, and it's going to be used against you when you step on a train and start shaking hands and kissing babies.
Yeah, I got it by that.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I know exactly what you're saying, but it's the cheapest example that he could.
It's so
set.
hard
It's
to
the
watch
cheapest
him
fucking
do
thing.
it because it's
I
just
know, 'cause he's so
slimy.
cheesy and fucked.
But he
Right?
does have a point. That's why it's working.
But the
Dean-
point is moot. It's a useless
No,
point.
it's
Like,
not
like,
a
dude,
useless
yeah,
point. That's
yes, it is.
the
Dude,
point.
well,
is not
why
useless
isn't it a
because
useless
we
point?
deal with this all the time.
False
You're-
equivalency or hypocrisy?
We deal with the hypocrisy, and he is one of the worst leaders we've had in a long time with respect to hypocrisy. Justin Trudeau. And it's constant. You can fire cannons through his stuff all the time. I mean, again, I get it. I find PP repulsive. I'm so disturbed that I'm thinking of voting Green in the next election by this man. So you're not wrong, and that's what's triggering you. But people are triggered by what his point is, and people that aren't triggered by his
Stupid
sliminess are looking at the point he's making and going, "That fucking dick." And there's a lot of people that are still mad they gotta wear masks on trains. Dude, I had a conversation with a locker room listener that is still upset about the Elks name change from the Edmonton Eskimos this morning. He won't let it go.
Get out of here.
We offered him free tickets to the game. It's like, I'm not going. Elks is a stupid
serious?
animal, and it's a stupid name.
He said the elk
And I
is a
can't believe
stupid
they
animal?
changed it. George, we had him on this morning. I'm like, you're going to need to let it go. You're going to die soon anyway. What's
Yeah.
the point? It's a football team. He will not go to a game. That's why
'Cause he's
this
that
PP
intense?
thing is going to work. It's
Yeah.
going to work. We're going
I
to
don't
have
disagree.
him for a leader. He's going to win in the next election because we don't put people in we like. We take people out we don't like.
Yeah.
And it's too easy. And the thing is, I keep saying this about Justin Trudeau. Whenever we have Spenny on or Linz or anybody starts trying to defend him from the perspective of, yeah, but look who this guy's worse. I always say Justin Trudeau is in trouble because his mistakes just keep amplifying. It keeps getting worse and worse. And now he's got a stupid haircut to match his stupidity. Like, it's just, we're going to get PP. We all need to settle in. It's gonna happen.
I don't think we are.
I think we are, Dean.
I
said
don't
it
think
right-
we are
right down
because
the
I
date.
think because the campaigning and the chintziness and the bullshit and the like the other day he did a video
Works.
on how Billy Bishop Airport downtown Toronto, if he was the prime minister, keep in mind there are a couple of airline executives and lobby groups for airlines that have been dumping money into his campaign, that have been begging the city of Toronto to extend the airport at Billy Bishop, which is the island airport, which is right downtown at the Port of Toronto, right? So you can't do that because it'll wipe out, and they've done studies for 20 years. It'll wipe out all kinds of marine life, and it's a very weird habitat. And so they're like, no, we can't. Plus, people in that neighborhood that live in the neighborhood, condos going up everywhere around. They're like, noise pollution, no thanks, not interested in it. So it's been a dead issue for a long time. This fucking loser gets ready to get on a plane at Billy Bishop Airport. He then goes out on behalf of the lobby group, and he's like, hey, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a video for you. That video is going to be me talking about how it's ridiculous that Justin Trudeau, again, won't extend the airport thing here in Toronto. If I was the prime minister, I would extend the runway here at Billy Bishop. Well, you can't. But those people that you're talking about that you think are going to vote for him and make him the prime minister, you're hoping that the rest of the world is just as stupid as him, and they love it. They fucking live for it.
They love
because they're like, anything they can do to shit on him, like his haircut. PP was all over him about his haircut. He looks like fucking Astro Boy on ecstasy. But he also goes after him because he was on a train without a mask and he was saying hi to people. We don't know the details behind why Justin Trudeau isn't wearing a mask on the train. I do not like Justin Trudeau as a leader. I am not defending him. I'm seeing people in the comment section going, way to go, push back. This is not about either of them. This is about the way that people are politicking and who this person is via his virtues, and the fear-mongering that Pierre Poilieveres continues to spread around, and what it's attached to, and who it's attached to, and who he's targeting. He's literally still targeting the dumbest white hillbillies in this country, and they fucking love it. They love it. And they love it not because he's saying anything of substance, because he isn't.
He's not
that
saying
whole thing
anything.
about the mask is not of substance. That has nothing to do with how he's going to govern. That's just a look at that guy. Look at that guy. It's always just a look at that guy politics. Well, the fucking look at that guy politics. I haven't heard anything from Pierre Poilievres that says, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to increase social programs. We're going to do this for indigenous people.
You won't.
He doesn't. And here's the thing. That's what I'm talking about. Not what everybody else said. That's my problem with him. It's got nothing to do with his party, which is just full of a bunch of fucking weirdo religious extremists. It's got everything to do with the fact that is what a simple idiot. That's how a simple idiot campaigns on simple idiot things. The train and the plane stuff, that's simple idiot shit. That a simple idiot would go, yeah, I can get behind that. Well, of course you can, because you're a simple idiot, right? Because you're not going to look into like...
It's going to work. And you know what? I'll tell you what. If PP, which he won't, because he's very smart and he knows this is going to work, he is not going to change this strategy. What happened to Aaron O'Toole? He was flip-flopping back and forth on strategy.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell, you could watch it from one press conference to the next. He was contradicting himself. Got him kicked out of the party. PP is part of the reason why Aaron O'Toole is gone. PP sees the writing on the wall and knows this is my playbook. I cannot change it, and I'm going to ride this horse into the wind. He is going to stick to this. We will not see one change. He will not blink, Dean. It's going to be this, and it's going to be constant, and it works, and he's going to win with it. And the reason why he's going to win with it is because Justin Trudeau is one of the most hated leaders we've had in a long, long time in Canada. He's just going to. Yes, dude, he is.
He's hated out west. He's not. Hated. No, he's not as hated in the east, dude. I'm telling you that right now. He's not as hated in Quebec. He's not as hated in Ontario. And who gets to decide every election?
Again, you're such a dick. I need you to keep a little bit of that, just a touch.
Yeah, thanks.
Just
Speaking of
little
dicks,
bit of dickish.
I really appreciate the fact I called you the other night, and really appreciate the fact that you were brushing your teeth while naked, and still picked up the phone.
I had gear on. I had a pair of
underwear on.
My wife yelled at me and said, "Dean's on the phone," and I said, "Well, answer it." And then she didn't tell me you were on FaceTime, and then just handed me the FaceTime, and I was brushing my teeth in my boxer briefs.
But why? Because it was like 8 o'clock at night.
I go to bed at 8:30.
Do you really?
Yeah, I get up at 3:30 in the morning, Dean.
Yeah, but you brush your teeth in your underwear?
Yeah.
Every time? Like, do you have
Not
to
every
brush your
time,
teeth
but I mean, it just worked out that way. I probably geared down and then realized I didn't brush my teeth, and then went and grabbed a toothbrush. Why are you so bothered by this?
Most people would just not take that phone call.
I didn't take the phone call. My wife took it, and I thought it was a phone call, not a FaceTime.
And your boxer briefs, and you kept brushing your teeth in the middle of the phone call. You just kept brushing.
Absolutely. I'm a multitasker.
I just never had that experience where I phoned a friend and he picks up the phone and he's naked brushing his teeth. And I just was wondering if that's like, you know how there's a lot of guys out there that have to be totally naked to take a dump or go to the bathroom? Which I've never understood either.
I had a friend like that.
Like he couldn't take a shit
unless his pants were off.
I don't get that either. It's like a weird, quirky thing. I thought it was a quirky thing for you. It's like
I walked in on him one time in the urinal and he was beat red, standing there.
Standing there with his pants off?
standing
Get
at
the fuck
urinal.
out of here. Are you serious?
Yes, I worked with this guy in Winnipeg.
I can understand if someone's doing that when they're in a urinal, not in a urinal, like in a stall, but not a fucking urinal, taking your pants off or your
I'm
shirt.
standing
cocking
by
it.
him. I'm standing by him. Well, actually, it was only one urinal. And I walked by him and I saw that he was in the urinal. And then I noticed his pants were off. And then I went into the stall to pee. And I'm peeing and he's peeing. It's really quiet. And then I just sort of said, Gary, we need to talk about why you don't have your pants. I can't. Listen, it's a weird thing. I can't pee unless I take my pants off.
I don't understand that. What do you mean? Like he couldn't piss. Like he couldn't just whip his wiener out and take a piss like everybody else.
It doesn't come out unless he has his pants off. Yeah.
At a urinal in public?
It wasn't in public. It was at a workplace. And I think he thought he had a minute.
That's
so
public. That's workplace. Public. I've never heard of that before. But I have a friend that does that, but it's in a stall. And I'm like he'll hang his pants over the door. And I remember we went to a mall once. His name's Cam. And I walked into
this is a common thing.
I didn't know it was. Yeah. It can't be that common. This is the only person I've ever seen that does it. And I see him throw his pants over the stall in a mall bathroom in Detroit, Michigan. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He goes, I can't shit with pants on. And I'm like, what do you mean you can't shit with pants on? He's like, I got to take all my clothes off. And out of nowhere, I see his shirt go over top. I'm like, you're naked in there? And the bathroom's full. He's like, yeah, totally naked. And about 2 stalls down, I hear, me too. And I'm like, am I missing something? And the guy in the end stall, he's like, yeah, it feels great. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I can't shit. And then a couple other guys in some other stalls in this mall in Detroit started laughing. One guy was like, my best friend does the same thing. It was like this stall shitting conversation with everybody. 2 guys were completely naked, and I was fascinated by it. So I just kept asking questions. But apparently, guys get like anxious. Some guys get anxious when they're wearing like shirts. They wear a shirt. Like people that have to take their shirts off to take a shit. I've never understood that in my life. And we had 2 of them going at the same time. And it was almost disconcerting. Like I had no idea that this was a thing. And we talked about it for like 2 hours after we left the mall. I'm like, take me through this. Like, when did this start? He's like, I don't know. I guess when I was a kid, my mom would like gear me all the way down, and then she put me on the toilet. And he's like, I would sit there learning how to take a shit, like not in my pants when I was like 4 years old. I'm like, you shit in a diaper till you were 4? Most people are potty trained when they're 1. Maybe that's the problem. And the more research I did, that was the case. A lot of people that apparently don't get potty trained until they're older have to take all their clothes off.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think so. That's what I've heard.
I've always been a remarkably good shitter. I get it done quick. I don't need to remove clothing to do it. I mean, obviously, I take my pants down, but yeah, fascinating. There's a lot of people out there that have some issues.
Yeah, like Stone Seawitch says one of my school teachers apparently took all their clothes off to poop too. Don't know how you know that about your teacher. It's probably not a great thing.
It's gonna get out though.
Yeah. It's gonna.
There's got to be somebody in the comments section that'll admit to being this way.
I think it's a little more take a dump. I don't understand the correlation, and until he explained it to me, and I'm kind of by it, but then it's still weird.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah. You got some new medication or something?
I did. When we were on the phone, you heard me taking some pills. So you did ask me about whether or not I was on a medication.
Well, you were shaking, like it just sounded like you were shaking. And I'm like,
we had our pre-podcast phone call.
Yeah. And
yes, it did become apparent that I am on a new medication to Dean.
What's it for?
Okay, so I don't need to tell anybody,
if you don't mind me asking,
that I get cold sores. And I don't know what it is. I've had a bad run in the last couple of months, and I've had some major heaters. And of course, I mean, they've showed up on the podcast. This podcast is video, so of course it's even more noticeable because I'll have it. And when I get them, they boil up and then they pop and then they scab up and then the scab lasts like fucking 2 weeks. Okay. So anyway, I started getting a ton of advice about how to deal with them. Now I've been taking something called lecithin since I was 21 years of age. I met this guy, saw I had a cold sore. This was when I was 21. This is 30 years ago. And he said, do you get cold sores? I'm like, yes, I get them. And when I was a kid, I started getting them when I was five or six. I think I got them from the hospital that I had my tonsils removed in. And I can almost like timeline it right back to that point. Every month for years when I was a kid, huge heater on get them in my nose, get them on both like upper lips, bottom lips. I fucking hate them. So I was willing to try anything. I started going around and asking people, hey, lecithin. And everyone was like, no. But then I started to take it. And then I started to get cold sores once a year. And I was, well, it must be the lecithin. Now, something's happened here in the last 6 months of my life. And somebody told me that if you were taking lecithin for that long, your body may have quit. Like the lecithin has stopped working. So I'm like, that makes sense. I can understand that. So then I started talking to people and getting advice from the social media. Every time you guys were making fun of me for having a heater, And so
hold it. So you started to dig into
trying to find
what the
solution.
issue was. You tried to find an answer for these cold sore issues you've been having and in frequency of like a lot more. You chose to take it.
I'm
to
getting them like
media,
a couple of times a month. No, this fucking podcast is the problem.
Okay,
because I'm on here and I got a heater, and then fucking Army Chris or you or Lynn's or somebody's making fun of me every day.
Chris, I don't make fun of you. I don't make fun of your cold sores. I mean, I'll jump in, but I don't make fun of them.
Okay, and I don't care. I'm not a sensitive guy. I get them.
Just
I
yelling.
understand. Yes, and somebody asked nose. Yes, I get them in my nose, and they're the worst ones. Oh my God, they hurt like hell. Anyway, so anyway, I had somebody reach out to me. I can't remember this person's name, and they said, you need to look into this drug. It's Valtrex, and it works like a charm. Okay, and so I got one today. I finally talked to my doctor a couple weeks ago, and I've had it now for a week and a bit, and he said, well, we're going to do it this way. We're going to give you a handful of these things. The next time you get one, you take 4, like as soon as you feel it coming on, take 4, wait 12 hours, take another 4. So anyway, I find out a couple of days ago that they also prescribe Valtrex for people with the other kind of herpes.
The downstairs herpes, the genital herpes.
Yes. And apparently, and I'm learning all this now on the fly, and which explains some of the looks I've been getting, because now everybody at the pharmacy thinks that old Lachlan Cross, which I picked up the other day,
has a sick Peter.
Has herpes. So you should have seen the look on the woman's face that was handing him to me.
Lachlan's got a sick Peter.
I do not have herpes down there.
You don't
thank
have
God.
sick Peter? You don't have
no, I do not.
Peter herpes?
But now everybody
dinger
thinks
herpes?
I do because I am taking Valtrex.
Yeah, the comments.
And of course, because I can't not. Anyway, as soon as I picked up that bottle, you were like, what do? You on some pills or something? And I'm like, Jesus Christ, now I got to fucking talk about this on the podcast.
Yeah, but I'm glad you did, because it's very human. There's a lot of people. I can't remember the number. It's like 60% of us have the herp. I don't know. I think the number for like genital herpes is something like 30%. Thank God.
I think it's 1 in 5.
I don't
heard.
have it. Have
We were
herpes?
reading about the genital herpes, and there's a lot of people out there with them, which I was surprised by that. The one thing that I might try is what they do. My doctor told me we can try this. He said, do this for a bit.
Turn it off.
And he said, "We'll try the Valtrex, like the heavy dose when you get one, to see if that works." But then the other thing that they do apparently is they will give you a year of this shit, and you got to take it every day. I don't know how many times, but you got to take it every day. And if you do that, if you do it for a year, you can actually kill the virus apparently. So I think this stuff is I don't know how old this stuff is, but it apparently works on
Congratulations.
the old for the face and the old herpes for the,
Dude, nothing to be ashamed about. Like,
I'm not ashamed
apparently something like 7 out of 8 billion people have like some kind of oral herpes infection or experienced one in their lifetime. And about 500 million to 1 billion people, depending on who you ask, because a lot of people aren't as honest as you, have genital herpes.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's super common and nothing to be ashamed about. However, picking up that prescription can't be a ton of fun.
Well, I actually didn't know until afterwards that they use the same drug for the old sick Peter.
That's
and
great.
So I found that out from somebody that I was talking to about it, and they were like, "Hey, they use the same drug for herpes," and I like the real herpes, and I went, "Oh."
But that you have real herpes. You have
That
real herpes. It's just not on your genitals, dude.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
Really happy.
So that's my life right now. Herpes medication.
That's fun. Dude, a lot of people have her. Katie Holmes, one of the hottest chicks in the world. Look at these heaters. She gets all kinds of heaters.
Oh,
Justin
dude.
Timberlake,
I feel
Brad
bad
Pitt,
for her.
Herpes. There's so many people out there that have the herp.
I feel bad for that one. You know what? I saw that one on Katie Holmes there.
Mhm.
So that's one right there. I know where that's going. That's right up into the nose. Oh, dude, you have no idea. Yeah.
Do you get those too? Do you get those ones that go like all the way from inside of your nose down to your mouth? One that looks like a weird kind of scabby mustache?
Yeah. I've had that. I've had exactly that. Yeah.
That's a fucking disaster. It's one of those things I'm so happy I've done. I've never loved an unclean person.
That's where we're going here.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Because that's where you get it, right? From loving an unclean human. I don't know if you know that. It's from doing some dirty shit with the great unwashed. Katie Holmes, she's done some dirty shit with the great unwashed.
She might have got them when she had her tonsils removed, right? Like me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right. That's the story I'd tell too. If I was taking Valtrex, I'd be like, "It's from getting my tonsils out." When I was 5.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm not going to be hauling my Valtrex out and leaving it on my desk at work. I'm glad somebody told me, because I would not have known
that it's for genital herpes.
It's all for, because now everybody will be like, right? What's Loch got there? Isn't that for herpes? Ooh, Loch's got the old blister dick going on. Sorry for him.
Loch's got a sick Peter. It's gonna be all right. Well, good for you. I mean, dude, I'm happy that you got some medication for it, because like for a couple months there, you would come on and it would be like
every week, man.
It would never leave. Like some of them would never leave.
Well, and you should see my lips. Like if you take a real forensic, like deep, close look at my lips, they're just scarred to shit.
That's what I'd love.
I got total weasel lips. Like honestly, man, they're just beat to snot. It just looks like a tire that never got removed. Like I've been just riding on these bad boys on these rims forever. They're so beat up. Yeah.
Oh, well, good for you. You got some resolve, dude. You're going to be just fine with your herpes.
I think I'm going to do the whole 1 year thing, because I'm good with pills. Like I have a routine, and like I'm very OCD. Like I take my vitamins every morning at the same time. Mm-hmm. And so I might try that where I take them for a year. I'm gonna phone my doctor back and just say, let's just do this. If this thing can get rid of them for a year, I'm just gonna hammer these things for a year, and then if I don't have it ever again,
you'll be so happy, dude. I don't think people understand. Like if anybody's had a cold, awful. I'm super fortunate. I don't get any weirdness, but I know a lot of people do. My dad gets them too. My dad got them from like being in the army or something. That's the excuse he gives me. He's like, it's from the army. I'm like, okay, big guy. As a kid, he had these big heaters he'd get on his lip, and I'd be like, "You okay?" He's
Oh.
like, "I don't want to talk about it." I'm like, "Oh, okay, no big deal." And then I remember one day going, "How did you get that?" Because we learned about herpes and cold sores in like health class. And I'm like, "How'd you get that?" He's like, "In the Army." I'm like, "That's weird," because I learned about how you get that in health class today. And if you got that in the Army, congratulations, big fella. I woke up 3 hours later, just right across the back of the head. He was sensitive about his herpes. Thank God you're not, because we can talk about it.
I'm getting a lot of herpes support in the comments section. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, you are. Good for you, Loch.
Who needs a psychiatrist when I've got the comment section on the Dean Blundell Podcast Network to get behind me? Positive reinforcement. You go with your herpes, boy.
Jen just called you weasel lips. That's kind of nice too, isn't it?
Oh, I do. I have total weasel lips.
And you know what? If you're going to get herpes, no, this person loves you. If you're going to get herpes, you want to be a female with oral herpes, because you can cover it all with lipstick. You know, and guys get a raw deal when it comes to herpes, which is why I thought a lot of those fucking losers during the convoy would have been happy to wear masks, because most of those guys have herpes.
And bad chiclets too. That was not that collection of, like, you're not getting the best example of our dental care here in Canada with the convoy. No.
You had a lot of people think you're brave, dude. Look at this. You're so brave. Rob's like, "You're so brave, dude." Jameis, who loves you, he's like solidarity with you. So Jameis he's got some herpes as well.
He's got some herps. The old herp.
Speaking of
herpes.
Yeah.
Someone say herpes?
Yeah. Chris Rook is in the house. What's up, dude?
Hey, folks.
How you doing?
Not bad. How are you guys?
Well, Loch's terrible.
I haven't seen you in a long time, Rook.
That's kind of why I came on quickly for a quick sec. Is it the end? We at the end here?
Oh,
yeah, we're at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, we're at the end.
Linz, do you get face herpes?
Oh, bye, Linz.
See you, Linz. He just jumped in too. Do you get heaters, Chris?
You guys saw one of the heaters on my face not too long ago.
That was a zit.
Did you get yours?
We're talking.
Did you get your? No, we're talking these heaters. We're talking herpes heaters.
Oh no.
No. Oh,
look at
of
his
course you
face.
don't.
Come on. You kidding me?
Yeah. No. So you've never loved an unclean woman, or I mean, gotten your tonsils out either.
When's the baby boy coming?
Oh, echo. Ryan?
Linz, you know what? I would
Fired
love
up.
to see somebody come on here one time driving and have a car accident. Nothing major. I don't want anybody to get hurt, but just to sort of.
Yeah,
just the excitement of it.
I don't even really know why I'm here.
Yeah, why are you here?
To say hi. To say hi to his buddy Loch. We haven't talked.
Basically to say hi.
I'm glad you're here. What little people don't know is Chris's wife, the beautiful Lindsay, is 5 months pregnant.
6.5.
6.5 months pregnant. I'm not a great friend. Sorry.
It's fine.
6.5 months pregnant. Ladies and gentlemen, the gender reveal says Chris is having a
non-binary.
No, that's not. Don't do that here. You're having a
boy.
Having a boy. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks so much.
Congratulations, buddy. Yeah, I'm very excited.
I'm actually going to take this call in the new nursery, which is my office. Used to be my office.
You know what? Oh,
Crib.
wow. Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that.
First baby, too, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like, this is your first child. This is you and the lovely wife.
That I know of.
Yeah. Such a player.
Yeah.
Let me sit in the rocking chair or the breastfeeding chair and breastfeed to all you guys here.
I was highly disappointed because there was this conversation about the gender reveal party, and I'm like, Rook right out of the gates, like the good millennial he is, he goes, "Don't worry, it's just going to involve balloons." And I'm like, fuck that. You need an explosion. I want something blowing up. And if there isn't some kind of mayhem from the gender reveal party, I'm going to be disappointed in you. Yeah. You're going to let me down. And sure enough, It's a
Well,
boy. No
I think the
explosion.
funniest part was when I said it wouldn't be on social media. Whoops.
You threw it all over social media.
Yeah. Well, I didn't. I
had
added
no
the stories
choice.
from other folks because apparently that's the nice thing to do, which I did.
Yeah.
And I also got juiced, as Dean found out last
Oh,
time we
he's
saw
fit.
each other.
Yeah.
Hammered.
You were drunk for it?
Yeah, I just kept going, and they had mojitos, and they were these little like Bacardi mojitos, and I got like I was lit,
Gieseled.
and I had my sunglasses on, and nobody knew the wiser except my dad, and he was just like, "You smell," and I was just like, "Yeah, I know." He's like, "You have to bring the balloon out to the grass and make a speech." I'm like, "I know, it'll be fine." Had to make the speech, just literally turned it on for 10 seconds, thanked everybody, and then went right back into the drunkenness.
Yeah. He sent me a picture of it, and he's standing there going like this. And you know when someone's really drunk and they're not looking at the camera, but they think they are, they're like this.
And their knees are locked.
Yeah. And this is like a once in a lifetime opportunity, right, for him. Like he's a gender reveal, first child, it's having a boy, and he is so fucked he could barely remember it. And I'm like, it's a guy after my own heart.
Oh
Like,
my
and I
God!
didn't get,
I enjoy you. I enjoy you. You're sitting there.
I forgot.
It's good to see. It's good to see that we continue to make mistakes as the male species. Like you're just carrying the flag. That's all that's happening here, right?
Yeah.
Like this is just that someone just handed the baton, and it might be me. Might have been me. Mine are moving out. I just handed you the baton. You get to do all the stupid shit I did over again, right? You'd think we'd learn. No, it's all good.
Are you
You know
excited?
what I just realized being on this call? Sorry,
What's
just
up?
side tangent. Do you want to advertise on my forehead? Look how big this thing is.
That's a 9 head.
With
You
the
and I
light
have a
shining off of it.
Similar issue.
Yeah.
Holy! This is why I don't
Yeah.
sit with light directly at me because it's just like a projector
Kid law.
screen for
there's-
advertisements.
Dude, you've lost a bunch of hair prior to having kids. After having kids,
It's gone.
it'll speed right the fuck up. Like it'll super speed up. That's when my hair started going gray and white. It's right after I had kids. I'm like, holy fuck, this is like instantaneous. It doesn't even. There's no chill. Same with.
I had a great flow. I had a Justin Trudeau. Well, I shouldn't say that anymore. I had I like Kevin Costner hair. 27, kid, boom, gone.
That's right.
Just
Yeah,
started
you're
just to
fucked
fly
after
off
you
my
have-
head.
After you
Yeah,
have
but to
your
answer
first
your
kid-
earlier question, I'm excited.
Are you?
Fired up. It'll be fun.
Here's a question: are you going to spank your child?
Yeah.
Don't do it, and don't
I
admit
got-
to it here.
Yeah,
I'm
I got.
shocked you answered that honestly.
Well, if they step out of line, you
No.
got to
Don't do it.
sort it out.
I'm okay. I'm
Don't
okay
do
with
it.
this.
You got to sort it out. No, don't
I'm
do
okay
it,
with
and don't
this,
listen.
Rook.
Don't.
Me and my-
Here's the other thing. Don't spank your kids, and whatever you do, never call Lachlan Cross for any parental advice when you're
Call me. My kids turned out
Don't
awesome.
do it.
I got
Can I be
the
honest,
best
though,
advice.
is
It's because your wife did it, dude. It's not because you did anything. We fucking established that. I spent an entire
That's
evening with your
advice I
wife.
could pass on to Rook.
What, to stay out of fucking his own way? No, he wants to
Yeah.
be an involved father.
No, that's a mistake, Rook. That's your first tip from me. Let Lindsay do it. All.
Yeah.
Don't
The
get
thing
in the
is
way
that-
of.
I've spoke about this with a couple of my friends, and we think that we're the last generation or last year, 1991s, whose parents actually would like slack them upside the head and do stuff like that. And we have accountability. Anybody after that does not. It's connected.
Yeah, you got to beat your
telling you.
kids.
It's
Yeah.
not beat.
Have
It's
to-
not
no.
beat, but like there has to. I feel like there has to be because the way that the relationship with my dad didn't. My dad had the fastest right hand in the West.
Yeah.
If I mouthed off at the dinner table or in front of people, it was just a quick one upside the back of the head, and it was like, "Hey!"
He hit you
And I'd,
in
like,
front of
look
people?
for it.
Yeah.
It was just a quick one, like right
Whack upside
in the back.
Dude, you can't
Yeah.
do that in public anymore. That's the thing. If you hit your kid in public now, someone's calling the
Listen
cops.
to Dean. Don't
No,
listen to Dean.
you have
and
to
if
listen
the
to
cops
me.
show up, just give them an example of what you did. Here's what I did. Just
But
bring the
dude,
kid over and go.
it's-
You know what?
There
Here,
has to
listen.
be that fear, though, right? There has to be a little bit of a fear element of your parents.
Yeah,
That's
but
why you gotta
know,
slap 'em.
if fear comes in many forms, you don't have to scare them with physical
Yeah, psychological
violence.
abuse. That's way better.
Way better. Fear comes in many forms. My dad did both. My dad used to kick the shit out of me and wouldn't talk to me for 5 days. I didn't even know if I was coming or fucking going. I'm like, dude, all I had was the last piece of cake. And he's like, I'm still fucking angry about it.
Here's the thing, Rook. When your kid turns 3 months old. Bring it on the podcast, okay? Just hang it in front of us. I'll be able to tell whether or not that kid is going to need a beating at any point in his life. You can tell early.
So
like
stupid.
if you have a Lachlan or a Dean, you gotta beat your kids.
No,
or a
have
Chris,
to. Or a Rook. You have to beat that kid. Like,
did
if
you get
he's going to
spanked?
be at me?
Did you get spanked, Chris? Well, I know you got spanked. Well, you got more than spanked. You got
Yeah.
your ass whooped by your dad.
hell yeah, better for
I
it.
did too.
I got spanked by
How do you know that
teachers.
you're better for it? You don't know that. You're not going to find that out until you're like 45. When
I
you
have
a fucking
accountability.
meltdown and you're like, fuck, I can't believe my dad used to kick the shit out of me. This is terrible. And you're going to be like an alcoholic in the
not
corner trying to
talking about
rework all this
No.
stuff and apologizing to your kids saying, sorry, I spanked you. That's what's going to happen. History's going to repeat
I have
itself.
accountability. I have a great relationship with both my parents.
Yeah.
They're awesome,
Yeah.
and I deserved every lick I got.
Yeah. I'm
Do you remember that?
Rook is he's going to be a good parent. Don't listen
Because
to
I
Dean.
said to my
Call
mom
me.
one time, we were at the dinner table, and I didn't want to eat something, or there was like a mistake made with like my pasta, and I told my mom to fuck off, and that was it.
Oh, yeah, I would have slapped you. I would have
That
slapped
was
you.
it.
Right?
That was it, folks.
How many times you tell her to fuck off after that? 0.
None.
I know, right? Like that. See, here's the thing. I'm of two minds. Like, I would never ever spank my kids. I did. I spanked my eldest, like for the first, 6 years of his life, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I can't hurt this child that I love. And then I talked to my dad. I'm like, how is it possible for you to keep beating the shit out of me for 15 years? He's like, yeah, it took a lot of work.
Commitment.
I mean, he's like, I had to stay the course. I'm like, what are you talking
Dedication.
about? You had to stay the course. He goes, son, that was how I grew up. How I grew up was if you did something wrong, and this is how he explained it to me. If you did something wrong when you were a child, when I was a kid, my dad wanted me to remember it in a very negative way so that I would never forget. And I'm like, did it work? He goes, fuck no. But I didn't know any other way to do it. So I had to whoop some ass until you were like 15, until you could take me. And I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. But that's how it was back then. We've talked about this on the podcast. Like, it was beat central. Like, you didn't know what you got beat for. You just assumed like, oh fuck, I guess I deserve it, right? Because that's my dad, and my dad was like king of capital punishment.
Funny thing is, I always knew. I always knew when a beating was coming, and I knew the reason why. I was a multi-dick. I hear you talk about how you were as a kid, Dean.
Yeah,
and I'm like. I'm surprised you didn't get more beatings, if we're being honest.
So am I, to be honest with you. I'm shocked. I'm shocked I'm still here. If I had me as a kid, I'd have murdered me.
Jail.
Seriously.
Right to jail.
Yeah.
But I talk a
mean,
big
like,
game, but Dean, you know, Lindsay, you know who runs the ship here.
You're not getting within
So
2 inches of that kid when you're angry. Yeah.
So I talk a big game, but it's not up to me, is it?
No, we went to Rage Against the Machine last week. Chris and I did.
Oh, did you go with Rook?
Oh, yeah.
Did you see me in my underwear brushing my teeth?
No.
No, I was one person over.
Yeah.
You FaceTime Loch?
Oh,
At
yeah.
the concert?
FaceTime from the show. Oh, yeah. He was
okay,
naked
cool.
brushing his teeth, that started a whole other conversation about people that take all their clothes off to take a shit, which I still don't understand. But there's this like whole section of people that do it. Anyway, it doesn't even matter. But we went to Rage Against the Machine last week, and we show up. I show up to his house. We're sitting there hanging out. I had to go in and have a pee. We're getting ready to leave. And I'm like, hey, thanks for letting Chris come out with us tonight. She's like, fucking get him out of here. And he's like, okay, love, see ya. And she's like, bye. Get out. And I'm like, it's going to be great.
He's your problem for the next 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
That's a healthy relationship too. I like her. I like your wife already.
Oh, she's awesome.
Never even met her, and I like her.
She's incredible.
Yeah, she's great.
One of the
That's
nicest
what Dean
people
said.
you'll
You're
ever
not going anywhere. You said that too. You're like, you're not going anywhere.
No.
No, I'm not.
You're in it forever. You're in it forever. You're never going to go anywhere. Fucking don't you dare touch your kid after it's born. Your wife will fucking murder you.
We'll talk.
I'll get it. The
I got some other tips.
faster hand in the West is Lindsay's. Comes from the other way.
Yeah. I don't think she
That
does.
show was unreal, by the way.
What's that? Rage?
The Rage show. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Best show I've
I
ever
didn't go
seen.
to bed till 3:00 in the morning because I was too charged up.
Still buzzing.
I can't believe
Yeah.
Spenny didn't know who Rage was. That was weird.
That Spenny didn't know who Rage was.
It's like, who's Rage? Rage Against the Machine. It's like, it's a band. What? No, you can't not live 58 years on this planet and not know what Killing in the Name of. Like, you have to know Rage Against the Machine.
Bulls on Parade.
You're going to Edmonton, right, Loch?
Guerrilla Radio. Yeah, I bought tickets. They were supposed to be here in March or May or something of 2020, and then the world went to shit, and then they like postponed it a year, and then in January they postponed it again. So we are not getting a show until I think it's either February or March 2023, and I just hung on to the tickets because it's a bucket list show for me. Yeah, years and years ago, a friend of mine that I used to was in the music business went down to Los Angeles, and he called me and said, "You got to come down here. Rage is doing a show in the park, and I can get us like a good spot to watch the show." It's supposed to be a free thing and all this, and I didn't go, and I'm still kicking myself to this day because I remember seeing footage of that. I was like, "Oh my god."
Well, and I'll tell you, this show is different because Zach tore his Achilles in Chicago a few days before that. If I'm not mistaken, that's where he did it, in Chicago. Yeah, Zach De La Rocha, who's the lead singer of Rage Against the Machine, if you don't know, Tom Morello. We were like fucking 30 feet away. Our seats were like 30 feet away from Tom Morello.
Those seats were insane. How'd you get those seats?
Can't say. It's a secret.
Okay.
We have means. We know people. Anyway, so we go. And Zach had, we can. Zach had like fucking his Achilles. He's in a boot. He's in like a cast because he had surgery and everything. Like the dude, and they were going to cancel the show. He sat on a crew box, like a metal touring box that you put a bunch of speakers and shit in. You know the cases, like a touring case. Not a chair with a cushion, none of that stuff. He had a couple of teas, like just teas with tea bags in them, like tea, sitting next to him. And I have never in my life seen a guy rage like that in a show, Rage Against the Machine. He was fucking unbelievable from a seated position on a case with a torn Achilles tendon, and he didn't take 1 second off, not one.
Nope.
It was legitimately the best show, and he sounded unbelievable, and it was super fucking tight. But I left there thinking two things. One is, oh my God, that might be the best live band I've ever seen. Like the best live show I've ever seen. And he was fucking he was sitting down the whole time. And I'm like, how the fuck is a Rage show going to be with the lead singer, Zach De La Rocha? If you've ever been to a Rage show, that was my third. He jumps up and freaks out and goes nuts. And he didn't have to do it. But he was pounding his fucking injured cast into the ground as he was talking about indigenous rights and making sure that you take care of yourself and take care of the people in your community, take care of the people around you. I left that show with like a brand new respect for the band.
Yeah.
But I also left that show going, oh my God, I don't fucking live my convictions. That was what I took out of that show. Like how they advocated for indigenous rights and some of the stats that they used to impress upon people how important it is to give indigenous people of Canada their land back. It was a huge theme throughout the show. And the other theme that I got throughout the show is Rage Against the Machine, Loch, still does not like the police. They fucking hate the police. Like every graphic was a cop on fire on top of a fucking horse, or a cop falling down, or some mean cop standing there with a baton. Every single one, from Testify, every time they went into a song that everybody knew, it was this cop thing. It was like, you cannot trust the people. Some in the Forces Burn Crosses. Like, it was like fucking, it was a constant in your face. Don't believe authority. Don't believe elitism. Make sure you advocate for the right things. And I'm like, these guys have been at this for 30 fucking years.
Yeah.
And they're not still talking about the same stuff. They're still advocating for the right things. And they never sounded fucking better. It was the best show I've ever been to. The best.
I interviewed, obviously it wasn't Rage, but it was Audio Slave, and the three members minus Zach jumped into the, a couple of records with Chris Cornell. And the first one came out in 2006. So this is just before I left Winnipeg. And I've talked about this before. I was on a list of guys with Alan Cross and Dunbar. And there's a handful of guys that did these world album premieres, this foreground material for radio back in the day. And I would get a call when one of them couldn't do it. I was like third, fourth, fifth on the list, kind of a thing. So I got to do some cool things back in the day, and that was one of the coolest ones. They flew me down to Los Angeles, interviewed Chris Cornell and Tom and Brad and Tim, and it was such a stressful interview because I'm kind of a guy, I'll dig and I can ask you a thoughtful question about the record and song lyrics and whatever meanings and all that. But generally speaking, I am looking for an opportunity to also make it light, like Tom was able to talk about the Chicago Cubs with me, but that was like a glimpse of a moment. They're very serious and they take what they do very, very seriously. All three of them. And even Chris was sort of in that vein as well. I mean, we talked a little bit about his being a kid and living in Seattle and going up into Vancouver and everything like that. But that was one of the highlights for me in my career, was a chance to sit down with those guys. And I still, to this day, have not seen them play. Every opportunity I've had, something's gotten in the way. So when you called me the other night and you were at the fucking Rage show, I was like, oh my God, just bucket list band. Can't wait to see them.
Yeah. Oh, dude.
And
it was
the
so
thing
good.
about Rage, a lot of people don't know this, is they're not out looking for accolades. So it's not like Bono when he flies into town and demands to meet with the Prime Minister of Canada, right? Like, this is a band that gets shit done, and they're doing it. They're not doing it for the attention. They're doing it
for
because
the
it
people
needs
at the
to
show. Yeah, they're doing it for the people at the show. And
but behind the scenes, that they're very active. That is all of them. Tom, Zach, they belong to groups. They're marching. They're fucking involved in trying to make the world a better place, which is, and they're not looking for the publicity and the promotion behind it. Right? It's not about that for them.
No. And that it two things that I took outside of that, away from that show, is the humility, which is a great point. A ton of humility around that band, because they don't have to be anything other than they are. The connection that they have to those fans. I don't know if you watched that whole scene in the mosh pit, like the respect that each of their fans have for each other, jumping over the fucking mosh pit, high-fiving each other, being gentle with each other. I didn't go into the mosh pit. But the other thing that I got out of that is this band's been at it for 25, 30 years, right? So, like, everybody in there was like me, where the last time they saw them, the hair was a different color, and the mosh pit was like literally full of dads with dad bods, getting like reliving their youth, surfing the fucking mosh pit, getting thrown over the ledge, high-fiving the guys in the band on the way by. And everybody's like between the ages of 40 and 60. But it was like an old crowd in the mosh pit. Like, literally, it was like fucking everybody was reliving their youth. And we've been out of this pandemic now, right? And we're in the middle of it. And you go to the show. I'm the only cat with a mask. There's a couple other nerds on the other side. And I was like, fuck, do I wear the mask? Do I not wear the mask? But one of the great takeaways from going to that show, which I thought was fucking unbelievable, was that I didn't know anybody in the crowd or what their political leaning was, or if they were vaccinated, or how they feel about mandates. And you're still fucking like, I walked out high-fiving people I'd never met before, right? Fist pumping people, because there was this gratefulness to be in this space doing something normal again, seeing this incredible band that hasn't toured for a decade. And everybody's just that much older since the last time you saw them. It was fucking awesome. It was this incredible thing where everybody kind of came together. And I got that. Like, I fucking hate going to shows sometimes. Like, it's because it used to be my job and something I had to do. But in that moment at that show, I was like, man, I don't care about anybody in this crowd. I don't, in terms of their political convictions, I don't care if anybody's going to vote for that guy. I don't care if you're vaccinated. It's a show, and everybody was like literally together doing one thing. And I was fucking amazed by that. And it struck me because we're so divided, right? Like, it's just as a society and as people. And we talk about it all the time. But that was the first time in the last 2 years where I was like, we're back to normal. Or at least I felt like we were back to normal, Chris, right? Because you're not like
100%.
It was incredible. And I'm like fucking leery. I'm super vaccinated. I brought a mask, wore it from time to time. I was like, fuck, do I wear it here? Do I wear it when I'm walking through the crowd? I wore it. And there were a couple other people that did it. But generally speaking, it was Hamilton. Someone gives a fuck about their personal health.
Oh, it was Hamilton. I told the lot we were driving down, and I had this joke in my pocket for the whole time. And as we were 50% of the way to the concert, I told Dean we were in the mosh pit. He's like, no, we're not. I'm like, yeah, we're in the mosh pit. I didn't tell you that,
pit, buddy.
But I would have gone. Part of me was like, if I wasn't wearing mandals, I would have gotten right in there.
But the thing
That was
was,
my
is that you know how the circle forms like at the front of the general admission there, Loch? The whole general admission was a mosh pit. It was
Yeah, I
insane.
can see that.
Dude, it was awesome. And you were going to, is it at Rogers Center, Edmonton? Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
When is it? When's the show?
March 2023. It's next year.
Looks like we got to
keep
fly
moving.
down to Edmonton there, Dean.
Oh, dude, I'm so in.
Oh,
Go
that would
see
be
him
cool.
again.
Yeah, dude, I would go to another Rage show like that. If there's one thing you can do for yourself, it's you have to go to see Rage Against the Machine before you die or they break up, depending on one of the two things. You have to. Anyway, it was a lot of fun. Congrats, Chris, on the baby. Don't punish it physically. Whatever.
No, it's just a.
Nope.
It's
Don't
not.
take-
You don't
nope.
have to get your belt out.
I got to lock my Bud Light Seltzer story.
Sure, go ahead.
So the obviously the Rage concert was extremely loud. So
Yeah.
I got a round of beers and a water for Dean, and I asked
Bobby.
for a Bud Light. I asked for a Bud Light, and they gave me a Bud Light Seltzer, and like they
Yeah,
opened
yeah,
it
yeah.
for you. So by the time, and they're gross. Like I do not a fan. So I brought it back to the seats, and I was furious. And then I gave Sarah her Corona, Dean his water, and I was just like, I don't like this at all. And I literally took it from the top right to the bottom in about 5 seconds.
And because we were in Hamilton, there's about 7 guys, bearded dudes, that were just crushed right behind us.
Yeah!
And out of nowhere, he guzzled it. Out of nowhere, he's like, "That's the guy!" And they're fucking high-fiving him and rages on that. And I'm like, yeah.
Shaking hands like the Prime Minister of Canada.
Because you slammed a 3.5 Bud Light seltzer.
So gross.
He slammed a lady drink.
It tasted like a purple freezy.
They're better than the
Disgusting.
Zizzies or Yizzies or whatever those things are. Those things are awful.
Dude,
None
they
of them
came
are
out with
good.
all the tasty stuff after I quit drinking. It sucks so much ass. I was
Dean's
watching him
jealous.
crush it, and he's like, "This sucks. I'm going to crush this." I'm like, "I would love to drink that."
As he sips his water.
Yeah, I'm sipping my water.
I
looking
was
all cool.
complaining to Dean this week that I bought Bud Light Lime because it was really hot, and then I was in the store and I was like walking to the Bud section. I was like, Bud Light Lime, damn it, in the bottles, damn it, I'll get those. But I forgot they don't get me drunk, right? Like if I drink 6 normal Budweisers, I get my buzz, right? I drink 6 Bud Lights, all I do is pee more. Bud Light Limes, right? So I don't know what if it's less than normal Bud Light, but I didn't get any buzz. So I was bitching to him, and Dean's like, you know what you got to do? You just got to put 1.5 ounces of vodka into it, or 2 ounces of
Yeah, you
vodka.
do. Yeah, you do.
So I
Turbos.
was seriously gonna do it, but then my wife was hanging around. She was, and I knew
Hanging around.
all night last night. She was just in the background, just sort of
area.
always in the area. And I'm like, God, I was going to try Dean's experiment with vodka, but I know that if she sees me dropping 1 ounce of vodka into my Bud Light, she's going to be like,
Oh, dude,
what are you
got to do
doing?
it. You got to do it and record it. You got to sit your phone up in the corner. You know how you fucking you like.
oh, she loves it when I do that.
Oh, do it. Do it.
Huge
Yes.
fan of me videotaping her and then playing back video later on my show.
You have to, because the shock on your that I've seen, dude. I've lived it. Where my ex-girlfriend and I did drink way too much, which is why I don't drink. I'm pouring a Bud Light Lime literally into a thing, and I got a bunch of ice, and I reach above the fridge and I grab a bottle of vodka, glug 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 glug, put it back in. She's like, "Excuse me, excuse me," and I'm like, "Yes." She's like, are you mixing? Are you using a beer to make a mixed drink? And I'm like, it appears that way. Yes, it's exactly what I'm doing. She's like, why? I'm like, 3%. No, nothing.
I'm not going to get
Excuse
drunk, buddy.
me.
How many of these I'd have to drink? I'd be fucking bloated. I'm doing you and
I had
everyone
to
here a
drink
favor.
10. I had to drink 10 on a Wednesday night. And that's just expensive.
Yeah,
I wish
what
I
are they
would have
called?
thought about the vodka thing.
She
previously.
was disgusted by me. She was like, "You're fucking disgusting," and I'm like, "Yeah, to each their own." Here I am mixing a cocktail. What are you using for mix? Beer. No big deal. Same thing with those like smear off ice things where I'd be like, I'll have a smear off ice.
You put vodka in it.
Oh, yeah, dude. About 3 ounces of it. You are fucked within 20 minutes. It's the best.
If you mix the Smirnoff Ice with a beer, especially like a hoppy beer, it's called a Sunday afternoon. 5 of those, and you are just
juice.
Just trashed. I can't imagine.
You're
One of those
just
gets
at your
me pretty
gender
drunk.
reveal. I didn't
There's
get
a
my
gender
pregnant
reveal
wife.
party.
I didn't get my pregnant wife food the entire time because I was just used.
Dude, here, you think I'm crazy. People in the comment section are like, yeah, that's not weird. Melissa's like, half a light beer, half smeared off ice. It's a fucking rocket. I'm like,
I call it a Sunday afternoon.
The Smirnoff Ice has got booze in it. That's not like those Bud Light seltzers. Those things go. I'd have to drink 15 of those to even get a buzz.
Oh yeah,
Like,
it's
yeah.
you
The
can't.
Smirnoff Ice
you,
though they've got 6 or 7. I'm sure of it. There's no way. And if they say it's anything less than that, they're lying. Because
that's why I
those
was
things
shocked
are a
that the
punch.
Hamilton folk were so impressed with my chug. It's basically water.
Yeah, you didn't even get a buzz, did you?
No,
No.
I'm pretty large.
Yeah,
takes
you're
a
big,
lot to get me
anyway,
going.
I've got all kinds of drinking tricks that can get you way drunker, way faster. Like bitters you get at the grocery store. Fuck. Put those in anything. It's like 40% alcohol. You're fucked. It's awesome. And your wife will be like,
you put it in an
or
email?
husband, depending on if you have a drinking problem and what gender you are. Your husband's like, what are you putting in your coffee? Nothing. I got it at the grocery store. You don't have to answer any fucking questions. Like not one. 0. And here's the other trick I used to do. I'd go to the liquor store. I'd get a bottle of vodka, but I'd actually get 2. And I would hide one. Red flags? Anyone? Red flags coming up? I'd hide one. And she'd be like, where's the bottle? Oh, I just got 1 bottle. She's like, well, that's good for you that you're drinking less. You've made a bottle last like 2 weeks. I'm like, all right. Got one in the basement. I go and fill up a little heater when you're not looking. That's what I do. Red flags? No? Yes?
Jimmy was going to try to ease off on his beer consumption by drinking hard liquor and then dummied like 3 bottles of rye in 1 week. And was like, maybe that's a bad idea. He's telling me in the car on Monday.
Yeah, it is.
Can you put those tricks in an email there, Dean?
Yeah, for sure.
You toss me an email with those tricks. Also, I'm
drinking
going to a
tricks
wedding
from
on
an
Sunday.
alcoholic? No fucking problem, dude. I got all the tricks, all the great places to hide stuff, to keep it cold, like ways that you can get drunker faster without your spouse knowing. This is like I've got like a fountain of alcoholic knowledge that I can share with people just to keep marriages intact. Seriously.
That should be a book, A Fountain of Alcoholic Knowledge by Dean Blundell. I'm going to a wedding on Sunday, and I have a flask. What should I put in there?
You want something you can sip. Southern Comfort.
Oh, SoCo is awesome. Yeah, that was the other thing I'd do. I'd get 2 bottles of vodka and a Mickey of Southern Comfort, and when I got home, I'd go and crush that Mickey and go, I'm only having 1 vodka tonight. Little did she know,
shit myself.
I pounded a Mickey of Southern Comfort in the garage before
In the
I walked in.
garage.
No big deal. You laugh because you know what I'm talking about, don't you? It's like those dad vacations. You ever go on those vacations? Rook, you'll get there, where you go on vacation with your family. Life's too heavy. You're such a pussy that you can't deal with life. And you take your family to the pool at the resort, and they're at the pool, and you walk by the bartender, and you're like, here's the deal. I'm going to be back in like 5 minutes. I need you to pour me a triple and don't ask any questions and just fucking keep them coming. And I'm going to give you a $50 American bill. You got it? And the guy's like, yeah, I got it. You're like the 5th dad today that's done the same thing. I'm like, good. So I go and I come back. I'm like, you got to put it in a coffee cup so that no one knows what I'm drinking so I can be good and juiced by the end of the night. And he's like, you got it. I know what it's like being a dad. I got 3 kids. And that's exactly what I would do. That's a fucking great trick. If you're ever at a bar or a restaurant, you need to have a couple of cocktails. Say, bring me a soda water, put some vodka in it, but don't say a word. And the guy's like, no problem. If you give me $50, I'll do whatever you want with that drink.
Yeah.
Red flags?
There's many on this show.
Ellen says yes. Red flags. 4 of them is better.
Are they red flags, or is it just a good time? You know? I got kicked out of the nursery because Lindsay wanted to go in there, so now I'm banished to the back patio.
Oh, Linz is in. Sorry, just when we're
boys.
going to wrap it up, here comes Linz.
I'm not staying. I'm sorry. I tried to jump in earlier, but my phone was fucking up. You're talking about grocery store hacks. You want to hear something brutal? That Joe Brand Hospital had a friend that was an ER nurse there.
Yeah.
They had an overabundance of emergency calls for women who were going to Costco and buying artificial vanilla flavoring or artificial vanilla extract. Apparently that's loaded with booze, and they were just drinking it. But the problem is it's ethanol. It's not actual like alcohol. So they were all showing up with liver failure.
No way. Yeah, that's right. Vanilla extract. That's like they call it the housewife's cocktail.
That's what it, and boy, oh boy, if you get the artificial stuff, apparently that's not, it's not pure enough for you to just down it with, oh, it's just coffee. And like you say, oh, it's just in my coffee. I got it at the grocery store. Meanwhile, it's half and half, and she's liquored by like 10 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, very dangerous. Don't do that.
Dude, being a mom is hard. Any way you can get lit up.
I have an understanding for anybody that drinks, just based on my overall consumption issues. If you have you know what? That's why I never judge anybody about where they're at with their alcoholism, right? Just, you got to figure it out, and you got to do it on your own terms. If you think it's a problem, then deal with it, right? You're not going to hear it from me.
No, of course not. Do you know why? Because yesterday you were legitimately considering mixing your beer with some vodka like I told you, and I was a fucking alcoholic. So, of course, you're not going to judge anybody, because you were on the precipice of being Dean Blundell for like an afternoon.
I'm still going to do that. My wife's away next week. I'm going to go get another box of
Here we go.
Oh, you're going to get fucked. You're going to get
fly to Toronto.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good week on the podcast next week, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh yeah, you'll be, because when your wife is gone and you drink a lot, it's like you get this feeling of relief the second she pulls out of the driveway, because you're like, no one's going to be looking down their nose.
I panic a bit when my wife leaves.
Do you really?
Yeah, I do, because I'm not good by myself. I kind of need her around, so I have an opposite feeling. I've
so you have
always
Arby's
felt
for
that.
breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
I do. Like, she does sort of ground me. Like, guys, I met her when I was 21. A month after I met her, we moved in together, and I've been with her ever since. So September 1991, we moved in together. We had our first date on July 27th, 1991. It was a hip show at the Commodore Ballroom in Vancouver. I was on my way to being a complete degenerate. If I hadn't met my wife and settled down, this would be a very different looking Lachlan right now. Can you imagine 30 years of me abusing myself, like where there was no responsibility?
Yeah.
I'd be a mess right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, you're in your basement. You're an admitted alcoholic, and in front of you, you have a prescription for Valtrex. Okay.
Oh yeah, does that put you on a list? Like, do you have to sign up at the police department or something because you're on that now?
No, I don't think so.
Like, do you have to inform all your partners?
Yeah,
it's for herpes.
You got herpes.
Do you have to put a sign on the front door when people come?
The person,
just a
in
big
this house has herpes.
red X on my screen door.
Ensure you wear PPE when entering this house, because his PP is not good.
Oh, he's got a sick Peter. He loved an unclean woman. That's what happened. He says it was because of his tonsils.
Not
I don't
true.
agree. Anyway, thanks for doing this, guys. Sorry, Linz. I apologize.
No,
for
it was my
popping
fault.
in.
I just wanted to pop in to say hi, and hope
right.
you guys have a great weekend. And
you too.
Yeah, I'll see you.
too,
I'm in next week, so
awesome. I look forward to seeing you next week. That is Ryan Lindley at the Sheeple Shepherd podcast, is where you can subscribe and download to his podcast. He's going to kick that up again at Ryan Lindley on Twitter. That is Chris Rook. Don't worry about following him.
See you later.
Oh, you just bugged out.
I'm right here.
And then I was bugged right
All
back.
right, there you go. All right.
Have a good weekend,
but
pal.
you see, buddy,
Take care,
you can read all about Rook, and congratulations on the impending birth of your child, 6.5 months. Congratulations, dude.
Good old Dean Lachlan Rook. Yeah, I'm excited to welcome that child into the world.
Yeah, you should. You're gonna be great. Talk to you soon, buddy.
Take care, guys.
Bye, guys.
Take care. And that is Lachlan Cross, and he's gone. Just walked right out, just like fucking bugged out. This is one of those things. Like, I'm out of here. Oh, Friday 2/13. There you go. Have a great weekend, everybody. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Everybody, have a great weekend. Thanks to our friends at kivlaw.ca as well. He's our lawyer, so if you're planning on suing us, Robert at kivlaw.ca is where you can find him. The other thing is, if you're in trouble, he can help. That's how great he is. Go to kivlaw.ca today. Criminal defense attorneys that help you get your life back or help you navigate the legal system depending on your legal issues, right? Sometimes you get accused of stuff you didn't do. Sometimes you make a mistake and you need some help. These guys do everything for you, and they hold your hand through the process and make sure that you find some accountability and relief through whatever legal issues you have. Kivlaw.ca's group of defense attorneys are the best in the Greater Toronto area. So if you're in Toronto and you're in trouble at any point in time, I guarantee you my boys will get back to you down at kivlaw.ca. Robert at kivlaw.ca. He'll get back to you immediately, and he will make sure that you are represented properly, and he's the only person I trust in the legal profession by and large. So make sure you get in touch with him at kivlaw.ca. Thanks, Ed's Fine Imports, for making this possible, too. If you want some underwear, Ed's got it. His Get Your Boxer Briefs pouch in the front, unbelievably breathable. A huge online store, too, not just Gitch, but his Get Your incredible Canadian-made and boxer briefs that you'll never buy another pair. I can guarantee you that. Gitch3 is your promo code. If you're interested in buying some underpants from my friend Ed, Canadian-made underwear, support Canada, support Canadian business, support this economy, and support your nuts. Ladies and gentlemen, support the nuts of a loved one. If you really love that man in your life or that person who likes to wear this underwear, you'll get them Gitch at edsfineimports.com. And Easy Auto Financial, helping people get into cars and financing for vehicles now for a couple of years. They're like brand new to the business, but they're so good at what they do. And they're growing immensely over the past, I would say, year and a half, because a lot of people suffered credit issues. Excuse me as I cough. Pandemic's tough on a lot of people. And if you're looking for a car and you have a hard time getting financing, what you need to do is go to easyautofinancial.ca. Today, sign up. No obligation. Doesn't cost you a dime. They don't want you to pay for financing. It's all free. Use them today. easyautofinancial.ca. And that's it for us. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Try to not do anything stupid. And if you do, blame it on someone else. Traditionally works. Until they come for you. Donald Trump worked for him. Maybe not. He's probably going to jail. Anywho, have a great weekend. Sign up for a newsletter at teamplundell.com. See you Monday. Bye.